Chapter 130. So, if you want to enter the academy earlier, cooperate with Z-Fan's treatment and take good care of your body. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened when she saw the bright smile on her brother's face. After accompanying her brother for a few hours, Yiqing Luo received a message from the Yi family. It said that old Grandmadam had been looking for her for a long time. Yi Fengyu panicked when he heard that old Grandmadam had come out. "Sister, why is old Grandmadam looking for you?" Yiqing Luo had expected that old Grandmadam would want to see her, but she didn't expect it to be so soon. She didn't expect it to be so urgent. He even sent someone to the Mu family to look for her. It seemed that her hunch was right. Old Grandmadam would never change her attitude towards her just because she could cultivate profound qi. Seeing Yiqing Luo's worried face and anxious look of wanting to get off the bed, Yiqing Luo withdrew the deep thoughts in her eyes and smiled. "I became an official student without passing the Heavenly Academy's ability assessment. Of course, old Grandmadam wants to see me." Yiqing Luo touched his head. "You stay in the Mu family and take care of your body. I will go see old Grandmadam and tell her about you. Sister, I will accompany you. Be obedient." Yiqing Luo left Ziling in the Mu family and left alone. Before leaving, Mu Zifan sent her out. He was holding a palm-sized brocade bag in his hand. "Here are 200 gold coins. Take it first." Mu Zifan handed over the brocade bag. The Heavenly Academy has a rule that new students must pay 200 gold coins as registration fee. Yiqing Luo stared at the brocade bag in front of her. Her eyebrows overflowed with warmth. Mu Zifan's action was completely out of consideration for her. She had been bullied in the Yi family for the past 15 years. 200 gold coins was impossible to come up with. Yi Tianquang would never pay these 200 gold coins for her. Mu Zifan also considered this point. He was worried that when she entered the academy, she would be ridiculed by others because she couldn't pay the registration fee. Don't misunderstand me. This is a loan. You can return it to me in the future." Mu Zifan realized that his behavior was a bit abrupt. His handsome cheeks blushed. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing and was just about to reject his kind intentions. Suddenly, a whirlwind blew from his side. That wind was blowing in an extremely strange manner as it landed on Yiqing Luo's face. Her hair was fixed with only a wooden hairpin. As the wind blew, the wooden hairpin fell to the ground. Her fine black hair scattered over her shoulders and danced in the wind. Yiqing Luo raised her hand to stroke her messy hair. As her gaze looked towards the direction where the whirlwind was blowing from, her brows creased slightly. "Qing Luo, are you all right?" Mu Zifan didn't notice anything strange. He picked up the wooden hairpin and handed it over along with the brocade bag. Yiqing Luo withdrew her gaze and took the wooden hairpin. "Brother Zifan, I appreciate your kindness, but I still have 200 gold coins." Following that, Yiqing Luo expressed her thanks and left. They walked all the way to a dark and secluded alley before Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks as she snorted coldly with an expressionless face. "Come out." The quiet alley was dead silent. Yiqing Luo creased her brows and was just about to open her mouth to force the person in the dark to reveal himself. Her waist was suddenly encircled by an arm. The man's fresh and elegant sandalwood fragrance seeped into her nose and wrapped around Yiqing Luo. "You've been following me?" Yiqing Luo's expression was cold. She didn't even turn her head and knew who was behind her. Chapter 131. Luo insisted on hiding me, turning me into a shady man. I could only follow Luo secretly. Dmo Xian pretended to be aggrieved as his voice was still mellow and pleasant to listen to. He rubbed his head against Yiqing Luo's neck. The soft strands of hair glided over Yiqing Luo's skin. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and she reached out to pat him. Just as she raised her hand, it was held by the man's slender fingers. With a burst of strength, Yiqing Luo was turned around and buried into Dmo Xian's arms. The man's purple robe completely wrapped around her. The fragrance of sandalwood on his body was getting stronger and stronger. Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo struggled to raise her head, trying to leave his embrace. Can you not be so touchy every time we meet? Oh, Demo Xian raised his eyebrows, narrowed his peach blossom eyes, and nodded seriously. Aluo, are you blaming me for not moving my mouth? Saying that, his 5 fingers had already locked onto Yi Qing Luo's lower jaw. The man's body was as hard as iron. She struggled for a long time, but was unable to move. In the next second, Dmo Xian's peerless face was enlarged in her pupils. He bent down and kissed her lips. Oh! Yi Qing Luo's eyes were cold and severe as she stared fiercely at the man and pushed him away with both hands. But from this angle, when she met that pair of bewitching black eyes, Yi Qing Luo actually went into a daze for a moment. His eyes shone with a bright light. Her long, curly eyelashes trembled from time to time. He kissed her very seriously, which could be seen from the look in his eyes. Until Dmo Xian's lips left hers, Yi Qing Luo was still in a trance. Her face was flushed red, and her breathing was uneven. Emperor, Ink, Xian. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes widened as balls of burning fury scuttled up. She gritted her teeth, wishing she could strangle Dmo Xian to death. Stinking man. He had taken advantage of her over and over again. She was actually unable to resist at all. How could a dignified overlord behave like a shameless scoundrel? Dmo Xian, before she could finish her angry words, the man's fingers brushed past her hair. A cold sensation touched his scalp. It was as if something had been inserted into it. Yi Qing Luo wanted to pull out the thing from her hair, but Dmo Xian held her hand tightly, not allowing her to move. I don't want this. Dmo Xian's other hand opened up his palm. In his palm was Yi Qing Luo's wooden hairpin. When did it fall into his hands? Yi Qing Luo was shocked. Was it because this man was too powerful, or had her vigilance lowered? She actually allowed Dmo Xian to easily take away the thing from her. You are not allowed to use anything that has been touched by another man. A low and overbearing voice spat out from Dmo Xian's thin lips. As he spoke, he clenched his fists. The wooden hairpin was broken into 2 halves. You! Yi Qing Luo stared at that half of the wooden hairpin. Somewhere in her heart, there was a strange feeling that kept filling up. It seemed like it was going to rush to his mind. However, she could not tell what kind of feeling it was. After some time, Yi Qing Luo clenched her fists tightly as her voice reverted back to its original chilly tone. Dmo Xian, no matter what you need from me, or what motive you have for getting close to me, even if you don't say it, I won't ask. After all, with your ability, it's a piece of cake to take my life. For suspecting your motive, I solemnly apologize to you. Chapter 132. Yes, that's all. She and Dmo Xian were just using each other. Dmo Xian's actions and words were just too ambiguous. Even the insensitive her could feel that Dmo Xian was flirting with her. Yi Qing Luo didn't want to play the game of feelings and couldn't afford to. Dmo Xian's might belonged to him alone. She didn't need anyone's help and didn't need anyone to rely on. She wouldn't put her heart on a man who couldn't be controlled. Dmo Xian's brows rose slightly. His long and narrow peach blossom eyes squinted, gazing at Yi Qing Luo's serious and cold face. His heart was filled with a doting feeling. He didn't know when this little fellow was able to stir his heart. On the contrary, it became a problem for him to open this little fellow's heart. For the first time in his life, Dmo Xian felt frustrated. Yi Qing Luo saw that Dmo Xian didn't respond to her for a long time and frowned slightly, feeling a burst of annoyance. She shook off his hand and turned around to leave. She hadn't taken a step when a man's arm wrapped around her waist again. The only woman I've ever gotten close to is you. A deep and magnetic voice rang in her ears. His thin lips spat out a warm breath, hitting her earlobe bit by bit. You're the only woman I want to touch and kiss. His words had just ended when a cool breeze brought that intoxicating sandalwood scent. Yi Qing Luo couldn't open her eyes. She turned her head to avoid this wind, and when she turned her eyes again, Dmo Xian's figure had disappeared in front of her. Yi Qing Luo's brows knitted tightly as her vision kept looking around the alley. But only the sandalwood scent in the air confirmed his existence. Dmo Xian's two sentences kept reverberating in her ears. Her heart was beating like a drum. Yi Qing Luo's cheeks turned slightly red. She raised her hand and pressed her slender fingers on her chest, as if trying to stop her wildly beating heart. Just at this moment, the dark alley was suddenly filled with a red light. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed as she caught a glimpse of a fire leaping about, as she looked towards the direction of the fire vigilantly. A snow-white nine-tailed fox stepped on the flames and came over. His 9 tails swayed in the wind, looking majestic. Behind Nine-Tailed Fox was dragging a luxurious carriage. The Nine-Tailed Fox strode gracefully, seemingly walking slowly, but in the blink of an eye, she had already arrived in front of Yi Qing Luo. There was no one in the carriage. Only Nine-Tailed Fox stood quietly in front of her, staring at her with a pair of strange black eyes. Yi Qing Luo knew this Nine-Tailed Fox. Wasn't this the same sacred beast Nine-Tailed Fox that Dmo Xian had used to make a grand entrance during the ability assessment? You wanted to go up? Yi Qing Luo and the Nine-Tailed Fox looked at each other and pointed to the carriage. The Nine-Tailed Fox nodded and rubbed its sharp beak against her body. It pushed her to the edge of the carriage. When Yi Qing Luo's body neared the carriage, those 9 tails had already wrapped her up and dragged her onto the carriage. The Nine-Tailed Fox's 4 limbs moved, and a fiery light flickered as she soared into the sky with the carriage. Yi Qing Luo sat in the carriage, and the expression on her face could no longer maintain the usual indifference. Her heart was deeply shaken. That indescribable feeling flowed in her heart. Faintly, it seemed like she was about to grasp something. Dmo Xian's peerless face kept appearing in her mind. He was actually so considerate for her. Now that she is with the Overlord, my reputation has been tarnished. He let out a heavy sigh, his face filled with disappointment. The smile on the old ancestor's face was a little stiff. Your Highness, you mean now that the elder ancestor has come out of seclusion, I think that this engagement... A hint of greed flashed in Lung Fenghua's eyes. Towards Yi Qing Luo, he was determined to get her. Especially the current Yi Qing Luo. He really couldn't help but want to tame her. He wanted to see her humbly, kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy. Yi Qing Qian, who had followed Lung Fenghua for many years, was an exquisite person. How could she not perceive his thoughts? Upon hearing his words, Yi Qing Qian understood that this time Lung Fenghua came, not for her, but to borrow the power of the old Grand Madam, to force Yi Qing Luo to marry him. Yi Qing Qian's face immediately turned pale. Chapter 134. Dizun. Everyone's expression changed as they exchanged glances. Yi Tianquang's but hadn't even warmed up when he immediately got up in a flurry and grabbed the manservant's collar. What did you say? Dizun. Yes, I'm absolutely not mistaken. That's the Overlord's sacred beast, the Nine-Tailed Fox. The servant nodded with absolute certainty. Dmo Xian was the only one in the world who owned a white Nine-Tailed Fox. Overlord, old Grand Madam mumbled softly as she seemed to have thought of something as she turned her head to look at Yi Qing Qian. Qian seemed to have mentioned that the Overlord is Seventh's master. Yi Qing Qian was still in a daze. The young lady's delicate face was flushed red. When he suddenly heard the old ancestor's question, he came back to his senses and gave a soft, "That little bitch." Yi Tianquang's expression immediately changed. Could it be that it was that little bitch who instigated Dizun? Father, I don't think it's possible. Yi Qing Qian didn't even think and interrupted Yi Tianquang's words. The Overlord is high and mighty. He is the #1 person in the Nirvana realm. Why would he go to war for Seventh Sister? When Yi Tianquang heard this, he felt that what Yi Tianquang said was very reasonable. How could His Excellency Dizun come looking for trouble with Three Springs sect for a little slut? Offending one of the 4 great sects was equivalent to offending all 4 great sections. After all, The four great sects were the guardians of the god race. Even the overlord had to consider the balance of the Nirvana realm. Thinking of this, Yi Tian Kuang heaved a sigh of relief. Let's go out and welcome His Majesty first and find out the purpose of His Majesty's visit. Finished speaking, Yi Tian Kuang quickly walked out of the hall. Yi Qing Qian supported old grandmadam as she followed closely behind. There was only one person left in the hall. The manservant knelt on the ground and looked at the man carefully. Your Highness, you want to go over? Before he could finish, Lung Fenghua kicked him in the chest and sent him flying. Lung Fenghua's eyes were filled with anger. He clenched his fists and suppressed his anger as he left the hall. Dizun, it was the overlord again. He was the dignified crown prince, yet he was ignored to this extent. On what basis could Dmo Xian be revered by the masses? He was the crown prince, the future monarch of the West Continent. The injustice in his heart made Lung Fenghua walk even faster. Soon, they arrived at the entrance of the Three Springs sect. Not far from the mansion gate, a huge white nine-tailed fox stood there proudly. Its four limbs were burning with sparks, gleaming with a dazzling brilliance. 9 fluffy and furry tails swayed continuously. Behind Nine-Tailed Fox was dragging a luxurious and exquisite carriage. Yi Qing Qian had seen this nine-tailed fox during the ability assessment. At this moment, he blurted out, "That's the Overlord's sacred beast. It's really the Overlord is here." The people of the Yi clan immediately knelt down. "Lord Overlord, you have come to my humble abode. Yi Tian Kuang, the leader of the Three Springs sect, is late to welcome you. Please forgive me, Lord Overlord." Even the old ancestor, who had been in a high position for a long time, knelt down at this moment. There was no movement in the carriage. However, the people from the Yi clan did not dare to make a move. He could only kneel on the ground and wait for the Overlord's response. After about half a stick of incense, old grandmadam's face faintly showed anger. She was used to being in a high position for a long time. Even the monarch of the West Continent had to give her some face when he saw her. For decades, she had never knelt to anyone. At this time, she was forced to kneel on the ground for such a long time by an overlord. She was naturally unhappy. Chapter 135. Your Highness. Yi Tian Kuang lowered his voice and carefully looked up at the carriage, then glanced at Lung Fenghua. This look was clearly asking him to kneel down. Lung Fenghua's face darkened. Although Dmo Xian's status was irreplaceable in the entire Nirvana realm, but in any case, he was still the crown prince. If it was in private, it was nothing to kneel down to Dmo Xian. But now, Lung Fenghua's heart was full of injustice, jealousy, and resentment towards Dmo Xian. How could he be willing to kneel down to Dmo Xian in front of so many people? Not only did Lung Fenghua not kneel down, but he also straightened his back, raised his chin, and reached out to grab Yi Qing Qian's arm. "Qinner, let's go follow this highness to the backyard. Let this highness see if your profound grade has improved these days." These words were obviously a blatant provocation to Dmo Xian. So what if Dmo Xian was the number one in the Nirvana realm? After all, he was the palace lord of the evil palace, despised by the world. In any case, he was the future monarch of the West Continent. His status was much higher than Dmo Xian's. Especially, the Yi Qing Luo that Dmo Xian fancied was a waste that he didn't want and threw away. And he got the most favored genius of a Yi family, Yi Qing Qian. No matter how he looked at it, Dmo Xian couldn't be compared to him. Lung Fenghua's inexplicable sense of self-confidence once again inexplicably welled up in his heart. But Yi Qing Qian, who had always been obedient to him, knelt on the ground and refused to get up. "Qianer," Lung Fenghua unhappily lowered his voice. "Are you going to reject me?" Yi Qing Qian's cheeks were flushed with shyness as she stared at the carriage. Her mind was full of Dmo Xian at the assessment square, that graceful and outstanding look, that immortal-like voice. Her heart's unwillingness and her overflowing self-confidence made her believe that she was the most suitable woman for Dmo Xian. Yi Qing Luo could seduce Dmo Xian. Naturally, she could too. Yi Qingqian directly shook off Lung Fenghua's hand and said in a charming voice, "Your Highness, that is the Overlord. Even your Highness cannot be rude to the Overlord." Lung Fenghua was so angry that his whole body was trembling and his face was livid, especially when the surrounding commoners looked at him with disdain and mockery. A ball of anger surged within him. Lung Fenghua angrily strode towards a nine-tailed fox. He pointed at the carriage and said sternly, "Overlord, since you're here, then show yourself. Are you hiding in the carriage because you don't dare to show yourself?" Before he could get close to the carriage, the nine-tailed fox's tail suddenly stretched out and swept the ground. Lung Fenghua tripped and fell to the ground, his face landing heavily on the ground. That powerful wave of air caused Lung Fenghua's heart to tremble. This nine-tailed fox was so powerful. Around them, the commoners could not help but laugh out loud. The commoners were delighted to see Lung Fenghua's wretched appearance. Lung Fenghua's face was burning like fire, as if he had been skinned and stood in front of everyone. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that everyone present was mocking him. Lung Fenghua was ashamed and resentful. He flicked his sleeve and turned around with the intention of leaving. At this time, a soft sound came from the carriage. Following that, the carriage's curtain was lifted. I just woke up from a nap. Why is it so lively? An extremely lazy voice, with a hint of enchanting hoarseness, could be heard. Inside the carriage, a lady dressed in red was lazily propping her head up, reclining on the soft blanket. A head of fine black hair hung on the lady's shoulder. That lady had an exquisite face, although she was young, but she had already revealed a mature and cool, enchanting charm. Especially that pair of eyes which could charm all living beings was suffused with a coquettish charm. It could captivate one's soul. Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 136. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers touched the corner of the curtain. Just as she stepped out of the carriage, the nine tails of the nine-tailed fox had already curled up her body and sent her steadily to the ground. This action made the Yi family's mood extremely complicated. The Overlord's sacred beast actually respected Yi Qing Luo so much. Could it be the Overlord and Yi Qing Luo came to Three Springs together? The group of people kneeling on the ground, their legs were already numb, but still did not dare to stand up. Your Highness is really well educated, making noise and provocation in public. Are you afraid that the world doesn't know that your Lung family is so awesome that you want to compete with the Overlord for the world? Yi Qing Luo spread out her feather fan, covering half of her face, and gave a low laugh. Her tone was light, as if she was talking about the weather. But the meaning of that sentence made Lung Fenghua's face change. Compete with the Overlord for the world? How could he have this ability? Moreover, Yi Qing Luo clearly wanted to involve the whole royal family. Seventh Miss Yi, you can't talk nonsense. I have great respect for all the capable people in the world. Lung Fenghua was so angry that the corner of his mouth twitched, but on the surface, he still had to hang a gentle smile. He took a few deep breaths and looked at Yi Qing Luo. But Seventh Miss Yi, as my fiancée, you are entangled with the Overlord. Is this the upbringing of Seventh Miss Yi? Do I have upbringing? Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, glancing at the group of people who were kneeling on the ground. Her line of sight was fixed on old grandmadam. I lost my mother when I was 5 years old. What upbringing can I have? Don't talk nonsense with this young lord. Immediately, she sneered. Moreover, Lung Fenghua, do you have the right to question me about my relationship with the Immerse? Her 5 fingers moved, closed the feather fan, and the smile on the corner of her mouth instantly turned cold. Just based on the fact that you and Yi Qingqian had an affair behind this young matriarch's back. You had already let this young matriarch divorce you a month ago. Lung Fenghua's face darkened. Seventh sister, don't talk nonsense. Yi Qingqian glanced at the carriage in a fluster, fearing that DMO Xian would misunderstand, and hurriedly explained, Eldest sister and His Highness are innocent. Innocent? Do you really think we're blind? Just now, Lung Feng Hua very sincerely invited you to the backyard to test whether your profound level has improved or not. Yi Qing Luo sneered and deliberately emphasized on the word test. He raised his voice at the end, and his tone was filled with ridicule. The meaning of his words changed. Yi Qing Qian bit her pink lips tightly, unable to refute. Lung Feng Hua was also secretly annoyed. How could he let his anger rise to his head and say something he shouldn't have said in the heat of the moment? The atmosphere instantly became strange. At this moment, old grandmadam, who was kneeling in front, raised her head slightly, and a pair of malicious eyes stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo. However, he glanced at the carriage out of the corner of his eye. Seventh brother, bring Lord Di Zun out. Yi Qing Luo played with her feather fan as she tilted her head and blinked innocently. Di Yimo Xian isn't here. Not here. Not only did the Yi clan's people's faces turn green and red, even Lung Feng Hua's expression changed. The surrounding people shook their heads and sighed lightly. They didn't expect the overlord to be not here. They thought they could see the man in the rumors. But even if they could see the overlord's only sacred beast, it was still a blessing. As a result, the people stared at the white, arrogant, nine-tailed fox in a daze. Yi Qing Luo, are you playing with us? Yi Qing Qian stared at the carriage shyly and immediately changed her expression. She turned hostile faster than flipping a book. Playing? How did I play with you? Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows disapprovingly. Did I say that DMO Xian is here? Yi Qing Qian's words were deflated, and she bit her lower lip unwillingly. Yes, Yi Qing Luo didn't say it, but... Chapter 137. Old 7, what's going on? Old grandmadam's face was gloomy as she was helped up by Yi Tianquan. After all, she was old. After kneeling for about the time it took to burn a stick of incense, her legs were already a little numb. At this time, her whole weight was supported by Yi Tianquan's body. Thinking that she had actually knelt for so long in front of so many people, old grandmadam's face became increasingly gloomy. I want to ask you, what's going on? Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept around, pretending to be puzzled. Why are old grandmadam and father kneeling at the door? Suddenly, she nodded in realization and scratched her head embarrassedly. Did old grandmadam and father specially come to welcome me to celebrate my admission into the Heavenly Academy? Old grandmadam originally stood firm. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, she was so angry that her body suddenly trembled. Her slender eyes narrowed into a slit. Welcome Yi Qing Luo? Could Yi Qing Luo afford such a grand welcome? Of course I can. Yi Qing Luo seemed to see through old grandmadam's thoughts and smiled sweetly. Her charming eyes shone with an innocent luster, her eyebrows curved. Just now, old grandmadam has knelt for such a long time. There was no sound of thunder. Why can't I accept it? You, old 7. In any case, you are the young matriarch of Three Springs sect. Mind your words. Old grandmadam's eyes flashed viciously. Her eyes were deep and treacherous. This little slut was really different from the past. How could the previous Yi Qing Luo have such a pair of such soul-stirring eyes? What was the reason that caused the weak and useless old 7 to have such a big change for 15 years? If old grandmadam really thinks that I am the young matriarch, when eldest sister provoked me, old grandmadam should have spoken up to defend her. Yi Qing Luo sneered. I don't have a mother to discipline me. Could it be that eldest sister also doesn't know how to be taught? Her voice fell abruptly, and she continued the conversation. That's true. If eldest sister had a good family education, as a daughter of a wealthy family, she wouldn't have gone behind her sister's back and fooled around with her future brother-in-law. The last sentence, although it was a soft murmur, but the surrounding people, who couldn't hear it clearly, who could not hear it, seeing the commoners pointing and gossiping. Yi Qing Qian bit her lower lip in embarrassment and indignation. How could she maintain her usual gentleness on her face? Yi Qing Qian was thin-skinned and only felt that the surrounding gazes made her face burn up. Her small hands gripped the wide sleeves of her robe tightly as she suppressed the surging anger in her chest. She tried her best to make her voice sound more gentle. Seventh sister, if you try your best to misunderstand me and slander me, I can only die to prove my innocence. With that, she lifted her sleeves and wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Then he crashed into the wall of the Three Springs sect residence. Chiener, Chiener, the old ancestor, and Yi Tian Kuang cried out in alarm. Just as Yi Qing Qian's head was about to hit the wall, a burst of profound qi shot towards her. That strong airwave caused Yi Qing Qian's body to flip over. Yi Qing Qian fell heavily onto the ground. The exquisite makeup on her face had been covered by dust, and her carefully coiffed hair was scattered. Qian, I'm sorry, I wanted to save you, but I didn't control my strength in a hurry. Lung Fenghua, who was standing in the distance, immediately retracted his hand and took a few steps to Yi Qing Qian's side and held her in his arms. Seeing that Yi Qing Qian was seeking death, Lung Fenghua's reflex action was to stop her with profound qi. Chapter 138. To prove your sincerity? Yi Qing Luo sneered, her pink lips hooked up. Why do I feel that eldest sister is so ashamed that she wants to commit suicide to escape punishment because I exposed you in front of everyone? Yi Qing Qian, who was about to faint, was so angry that she coughed a few times. A mouthful of blood gushed up her throat. Wah, she spat it out. Lung Fenghua was hugging her, and this spurt all sprayed onto his face. Lung Fenghua only felt that his face was warm, and a bloody smell filled his nose. His whole face was covered with sticky liquid. Ha ha! In this way, not only are your skin intertwined, but your blood is also mixed. Yi Qing Luo burst out laughing. A scumbag and a white lotus, a perfect match. Even God thought so, and even gave him a color for this perfect match. Yi Qing Qian's breath was stuck in her throat, and her mouth was full of the taste of blood. After hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, she couldn't bear it anymore. Her delicate body twitched violently, her eyes rolled, and she completely fainted. Lung Fenghua's face was sprayed with blood, and his expression couldn't be seen clearly. However, from the aura released from his body, it was enough to show the anger in his heart at this time. If it weren't for so many people watching, if it weren't for the presence of the Yi family, Lung Fenghua really wanted to throw the woman in his arms out. Lung Fenghua took a deep breath, trying to calm his mood. But when he breathed, he inhaled a nose full of blood. He raised his sleeve impatiently and wiped his face with all his might. Your Royal Highness, thank you for saving Qian life. Come, carry eldest miss away. How could Yi Tian Kuang not feel Lung Fenghua's anger at this time? He hurriedly called a few rough maids to carry Yi Qing Qian back to the room. Let Madame Yuqi take care of her. If Qian body recovers, she will make up for her mistake. Old Grandmadam added. Old Grandmadam really liked Yi Qing Qian from the bottom of her heart. After all, such a well-behaved and talented junior like Yi Qing Qian, how could she not like her? Letting the maids take care of her was not as good as the care of her biological mother. Yi Qing Luo could tell from old Grandmadam's words that she pitied Yi Qing Qian. The corners of her lips twitched in a self-deprecating manner. She narrowed her enchanting eyes, which were suffused with a cold light, reflecting a profound meaning. Although she had already expected the old ancestor's attitude towards her. But in Yi Qing Luo's heart, there were still some doubts. After all, she was the legitimate daughter of the Yi family and the future young sect master. It was one thing for Yi Tian Kuang to hate her so much. Why, in her memory, this elder ancestor who used to determine the status of the younger generation in the Yi clan also hated her so much. There wasn't the slightest bit of excitement and agitation from her being able to cultivate profound qi and getting to know DMO Xian. Old Grandmadam retracted her gaze as she watched Yi Qing Qian being carried away by the old maid. Old Seven, that's enough. How can you make such a ruckus in public? That slender cold eyes, which resembled a venomous snake, stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo. In the past, there was no one to discipline you. Now that I have come out of seclusion, You will be personally disciplined by me in the future." As soon as old Grand Madam's words fell, Yi Tianquang's face revealed a look of ecstasy. In his heart, he secretly thought, if old Grand Madam was personally disciplining her, would he be afraid that this cheap girl would not be disciplined? But these words made Yi Qing Luo's expression that seemed like a smile, yet not a smile, turn into a belly laugh. She laughed like a flower branch trembling. Her flirtatious red dress floated along with the trembling of her body, like a blooming, gorgeous rose. "I'm afraid old Grand Madam has forgotten that in a few days I will be reporting to the Heavenly Academy." Discipline her? She hadn't been disciplined for the past 15 years. Chapter 139. Yi Qing Luo, you're usually lawless, but how dare you be so rude in front of old Grand Madam? Yi Tianquang was furious when he saw that old Grand Madam couldn't suppress Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo snorted coldly. Rude? She didn't put the Yi family in her eyes at all, okay? Yi Qing Luo was too lazy to pay attention to Yi Tianquang and turned to look at the nine-tailed fox behind her. "You go back and say thank you for me." The white fox, who was originally arrogant and elegant, moved its head after hearing her voice. The sharp fox mouth rubbed against Yi Qing Luo's face. Yi Qing Luo only felt a wet and hot touch sweeping across her skin. It actually licked her. After licking her, the nine-tailed fox leaped into the air and disappeared into the horizon with the gorgeous carriage. It was as dazzling as when it came, causing the people in the city to stop and look up at the sky. Ow, meow, meow. It was hard to tell if it was the cry of a cat or the low roar of some wild beast that rang in his ears. Immediately, she saw a ball of fluffy object the size of a palm, climbing up Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. The fluffy tail fiercely swept across Yi Qing Luo's cheek. Chi-chi. Yi Qing Luo was a little tickled and reached out to pull it. But the little guy jumped from one end of the shoulder to the other. It moved its little head and licked Yi Qing Luo's other cheek. It turned out that the little guy was jealous. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help laughing and rubbed Chi-Chi's little head. "Well, that's not my sacred beast. There's nothing to worry about." "Ow, meow, meow." Chi-Chi snorted, staring fiercely in the direction of the nine-tailed fox's departure. Damn fox, coquettish and domineering. Was it trying to steal its master? Yi Qing Luo hugged Chi-Chi, talking and laughing, leaving behind a large group of people watching the fun, and walked into the Three Springs Manor. Old Grand Madam's face was livid. Yi Tianquang's facial features were hideous. He was furious, but in front of the people, they could only calm down and return to the manor. "Your Highness, are you going to Yi family to clean up, or—" The attendant stared at the blood on Lung Fenghua's face and asked tremblingly. At this moment, Lung Fenghua didn't have half of the crown prince's nobility. After the blood coagulated, his entire face seemed to have been glued. Lung Fenghua clenched his teeth and slapped his follower a few times. "What Yi clan? Why bother going to the Yi clan? Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough?" Yi Qing Luo returned to the abandoned courtyard and placed Chi-Chi on the table without sitting down. The gate of the abandoned courtyard was kicked open with a loud bang. Yi Tianquang looked at the withered branches on the ground and frowned. This was really an abandoned courtyard, so abandoned that no one could live in it. Yi Qing Luo had actually stayed in such a place for 15 years. The elder master followed closely, and when he saw the environment, his face darkened. Before Madame Yi moved in, this courtyard was not the best courtyard in the Three Springs sect, but it was definitely not bad. Who would have thought that, after more than a decade of absence, it would actually become like this? Father and old ancestor are really persistent. Didn't you see the sign hanging outside the courtyard? Yi Qing Luo lazily leaned against the wall, her arms crossed over her chest. Yi Tianquang followed Yi Qing Luo's line of sight, and sure enough, he saw a huge wooden sign outside the courtyard. On it was written in flamboyant calligraphy, "Livestock are not allowed inside." She pointed to the sign and looked at the two Yi family elders. The meaning was obvious. Chapter 140. Oh, Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows, So, Yi Tian Kuang's eyes burst with anger when he saw her stubborn look. He turned to look at old grandmadam. Old grandmadam, old Seventh's behavior has brought shame to the Yi family. I think it's time to consider changing the young matriarch position of Three Springs sect. After that, he glanced at Yi Qing Luo from the corner of his eyes. In Yi Tian Kuang's view, the reason why Yi Qing Luo could be so arrogant was because of her identity as the first wife's daughter and her identity as the young matriarch of Three Springs sect. If she lost these backing, would Yi Qing Luo still be so arrogant? A light laugh overflowed from Yi Qing Luo's pink lips. She shook her feather fan and met Yi Tian Kuang's gaze with contempt. Father doesn't know what's right and wrong. Old grandmadam understands. She slowly walked towards old grandmadam, slightly squinting her charming eyes, flowing with a rippling luster. Eldest sister knows that Lung Fenghua is the sovereign's order to be my husband, but she seduced Lung Fenghua behind his back. This action, let's not talk about whether it's against the rules, if the sovereign hears about it. I'm afraid eldest sister will have to bear the crime of deceiving the sovereign. The sovereign first set the engagement, but in order to achieve her own goal, Yi Qing Qian seduced Lung Fenghua and persuaded him to marry her instead. Yi Qing Qian's action was in defiance of the sovereign's order. Lung Fenghua betrayed me first. It's natural for me to divorce him. The smile on Yi Qing Luo's lips gradually deepened. Furthermore, fourth sister secretly colluded with Yuchi fourth young master to dig out my jade heart in an attempt to destroy my innocence. During the ability assessment, she even borrowed the Dark Force's items to seriously injure Xiaoyu. As she approached, a majestic and powerful aura spread out from her body. Yi Tian Kuang, an old grandmadam, couldn't help but feel aghast. I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine. What's wrong with that? You're allowed to plot against us, but I'm not allowed to fight back. Is this the Yi family's principle? Yi Qing Luo scoffed coldly as her lips curled up in ridicule. Don't even think of using the position of young sect master to threaten me. You want me to be the young sect master, but I might not be willing to do it. For the past 15 years, had she ever enjoyed even the slightest bit of benefit from her position as the young sect master? No. What she had experienced was the jealousy and humiliation of her siblings. There was no difference whether he had the position of young sect master or not. Eve, I'll spawn if I don't. Yi Tian Kuang was so angry that his whole body was twitching. He clenched his fist and was about to rush forward. Old grandmadam's withered like firewood hand grabbed Yi Tian Kuang's wrist. Her ice-cold eyes coldly swept past Yi Qing Luo. Being stared at by those eyes was like being stared at by a poisonous snake. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers stroked her lower jaw, as her half-squinted eyes seemed to be smiling, yet not smiling. After a long while, the elder ancestor withdrew his gaze and turned to leave the abandoned courtyard. Yi Tian Kuang followed closely behind. Vaguely, she could still hear Yi Tian Kuang's low roar of rage, as if he wasn't satisfied with why the elder ancestor didn't let him make a move. Originally, she thought that after Yi Tian Kuang had suffered here, he would definitely revoke her position as the young sect master. But Yi Qing Luo waited for 2 days and instead waited until the elder ancestor sent someone to invite her out of the abandoned courtyard and gave her the best location in Three Springs sect. After living in the new courtyard, the elder ancestor also sent more people to Yi Qing Luo. There were at least 20 people in front and behind the courtyard. Chapter 141. Old Grandmadam was indeed the old Grandmadam. Her way of thinking was indeed more mature than Yi Tian Kuang. Extreme measures would only make the gap between Yi Qing Luo and the Yi family widen. On the contrary, restoring Yi Qing Luo's rights as the daughter of the first wife and the young matriarch was the most important way to stabilize Yi Qing Luo. These 2 days, the attendants and maids came in and out. Only old Grandmadam and Yi Tian Kuang didn't take a step inside. After a few days, Yi Fengyu was able to get out of bed and was sent back by the Mu brothers. Knowing that Yi Qing Luo wasn't wronged by old Grandmadam, but moved to the best courtyard in the inner part of the residence, his heart was finally at ease. It seemed that old Grand Madam indeed used profound grade and ability to determine the status of the younger generation. These days, Yi Qing Luo had been cultivating profound qi with Old Man Song in the Azure Dew bracelet, as well as the first layer of purgatory. Her profound grade had been stuck at the yellow profound 9th grade ever since the competition with Yi Qingling. This advancement barrier, Yi Qing Luo had tried numerous ways, but ultimately, she was unable to break through. Yi Qing Luo wanted to try challenging the second layer of purgatory. Perhaps it could stimulate her to advance. However, Old Man Song didn't agree with her approach and forcefully stopped her. The 12 layers of purgatory, although it is a void and different from this world, but if you're injured in there, you are really injured. If you die in there, you are really dead. Old Man Song said seriously, "Before you have enough strength to contend with the second layer of purgatory, I will absolutely not let you step into the second layer." After Yi Fengyu returned to Three Springs Sect, he tidied up his courtyard and directly moved to the same courtyard as Yi Qing Luo. The new courtyard was extremely spacious, divided into 2 areas. Yi Fengyu was in the front courtyard, and Yi Qing Luo was in the back courtyard. There was a distance between the siblings, so they wouldn't be the subject of gossip. In order to strengthen Yi Fengyu's body, Yi Qing Luo asked the Cauldron Dragon to refine a few medicinal pills for him. Time flew by, and half a month had passed. All the freshman examinations in the Heavenly Academy had ended, and it was the day of school. On the night before school started, the attendants helped the siblings pack their luggage. Yi Fengyu's handsome face revealed a few complicated emotions. After the meal, he left the courtyard alone. "Miss, is young master, is he too nervous about going to the Heavenly Academy?" Ziling could tell that something was wrong with her brother and asked in a low voice. Yi Qing Luo wiped her mouth and squinted her eyes. "This fellow, I'm afraid it's because of me." Sure enough, Yi Fengyu returned to the courtyard with a gloomy face half an hour later. On seeing Yi Qing Luo still sitting in the main hall, apparently waiting for him, Yi Fengyu lowered his head and sat down beside Yi Qing Luo. From time to time, he would glance at Yi Qing Luo, looking as though he wanted to say something but was hesitant. Yi Qing Luo wasn't anxious at all as she leaned lazily against the back of the chair, patiently waiting for him to speak. After a while, Yi Fengyu's thin lips moved and suddenly took out a brocade bag from his bosom. "Sister, this is 200 gold coins, the registration fee to enter the Heavenly Academy. You take it. What about you?" Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows and glanced at the brocade bag in his hand. A trace of awkwardness flitted across Yi Fengyu's face. Of course I do. This is big sister, little you." Yi Qing Luo's cold voice indifferently interrupted his words. "You know what big sister hates the most is deception." Yi Fengyu bit his thin lips. The words just now were stuck in his throat and couldn't come out. Chapter 142. Yi Qing Luo heard this, her pink lips slightly hooked up and looked up with a faint smile. "Don't give, I don't need it." But, sister, the registration fee for the Heavenly Academy is 200 gold coins. Yi Fengyu's face was full of guilt. For Yi Fengyu, 200 gold coins was a shocking amount of wealth. For the past 15 years, although his life was better than Yi Qing Luo, but his monthly salary was at most 10 silver coins. These years, Yi Fengyu had hoarded a lot of money, but some time ago, Yi Qing Luo spent it all on medicinal herbs. Now he was penniless. Only the 200 gold coins registration fee that old Grand Madam gave him. But what about his sister's registration fee? Seeing that he had to go to the academy tomorrow, old Grand Madam had no intention to take out her registration fee. Just now, he specially went to his father's courtyard to ask, but was stopped by his father. Yi Fengyu felt that the money bag in his hand was exceptionally heavy. "Sister, it's all right for me to go to the academy. I can also learn from the ordinary schools. But sister, Heavenly Academy is your chance. You're the most suitable to go there." Yi Fengyu was clear about his own weight. His aptitude was absolutely not comparable to Yi Qing Luo. It was better to give this opportunity to his sister. He could feel at ease. You are a man. Why are you so long-winded? Yi Qing Luo interrupted him impatiently, squinting at him with her charming eyes. Yi Tianquan's purpose is very simple. He just want me to take the initiative to beg him. These days, she changed the courtyard and added more maids to take care of her. But there was no reaction on the registration fee. Obviously, old Grandmadam and Yi Tianquan wanted to take this opportunity to make her take the initiative to look for them. Once she took the initiative, she would lose her sovereignty. They would also take the opportunity to put forward some conditions to suppress her. This was a good plan. But Yi Qing Luo chuckled softly as her alluring eyes squinted slightly. You're only thinking about how to subdue me, but you've forgotten that I'm representing Three Springs sect now. The young matriarch of the Three Springs sect, after being admitted to the Heavenly Academy, could not even pay the registration fee of 200 gold coins. Were they mocking her young master for being useless, or were they mocking the Three Springs sect for being so poor that they couldn't even take out 200 gold coins? Yi Fengyu's jaw dropped in realization. Then tomorrow, who told you that I have no money? Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows and teased. Yi Fengyu's eyes widened even more. Sister has it? 200 gold coins? No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't believe it. He had a monthly salary, and even though he lived frugally, he had only managed to save 20 gold coins over the years. Yi Qing Luo. These few years, Yi Tianquan had long forgotten about her in the abandoned courtyard, and Madame Yuchi had intentionally neglected and humiliated her. Not even a single copper coin was given to Yi Qing Luo. These years, although Yi Fengyu looked down on Yi Qing Luo, she was after all his biological sister. Every time he received his monthly salary, he would secretly buy some food and give it to Ziling to take care of Yi Qing Luo. Because of this, towards Yi Qing Luo's situation, he was extremely familiar with it. How could Yi Qing Luo possibly have 200 gold coins? What is sister's secondary occupation? Yi Qing Luo's pink lips slightly raised, leisurely chuckling, lingering in the air above the hall. Yi Fengyu replied in a daze. Medicine master. Medicine master. Chapter 143. When Yi Fengyu thought of his sister's refined pills, he was deeply impressed by her character. He had never seen an alchemist like Yi Qing Luo who had a 100% success rate. Moreover, the pills she refined were extremely special. They were obviously using the same formula and refining the same type of medicinal pills, but it was obvious that the medicinal pills which Yi Qing Luo had refined were much more effective than ordinary medicinal pills. Alchemist was originally a money-making profession, and for an alchemist like Yi Qing Luo, the gold coins flew all over the sky. Yi Fengyu's face immediately turned bitter as he threw himself to Yi Qing Luo's side and started massaging her shoulders and legs. Elder sister, since you are so rich, look at my 20 gold coins. It was a secret stash of money that he had saved up for several years. Just the thought of contributing all of it was enough to make one's heart ache. Forget it. Yi Qing Luo pulled the corner of her lips and said, in order to prevent you from spending money recklessly, I will keep your money for you. The next day, Yi Qing Luo was woken up by Ziling early in the morning. Ziling looked around and whispered in Yi Qing Luo's ear, Miss, those people from the Yi family are already waiting for you. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows. A pair of lazy eyes revealed a bit of slyness. Then let them wait. Ziling snickered a few times and slowed down the movements of her hands. She fetched water for Yi Qing Luo to take a bath and tied up her slightly complicated hair. About half an hour later, Yi Qing Luo slowly came out of the house. Yi Fengyu stood at the door with a pale face. Apparently, he had been scolded by Yi Tianquan. Yi Qing Luo looked at his aggrieved face and touched his head. Have you had breakfast? Sister, outside the house. Look at your pale lips. You must have gotten up in a hurry. You haven't had breakfast yet. Yi Qing Luo's fingers slid to Yi Fengyu's face and said with a distressed face, Linger, cook some porridge for 8th young master and add some side dishes. Sister. Yi Fengyu anxiously pulled on her hand. Don't be angry with father. They've already been waiting outside for an hour. Yiqing Luo saw that his eyes were filled with nervousness and the muscles on his body were also tensed up due to nervousness. She knew that it was because he had just entered the Heavenly Academy and was filled with nervousness, so she stopped teasing him. She asked Ziling to bring 2 white steam buns and gave one to Yifengyu. She picked one up and stuffed it into her mouth. Ziling carried a luggage bag on each shoulder and was about to lead the way. Yiqing Luo swallowed the steamed bun and patted Ziling's shoulder. Linger, the Heavenly Academy does not allow maids. In the Heavenly Academy, all the students were just students. In the words of the Wu Fuzi gang, come to the Academy to learn how to improve your Xian Qi, how to effectively cultivate your Xian Qi, and how to become stronger. If you still bring attendants or maids to serve you, go home and be a young master or mistress. Ziling, who was originally excited about being able to leave the mansion, immediately dimmed. She pursed her lips. Although she was unwilling, she still obediently put down her bow. Young miss and young master, remember to take good care of yourself. Ziling couldn't hide the disappointment on her face. Yiqing Luo patted her shoulder gently and took over the bow. She said in a gentle voice, "Silly girl, in the Three Springs sect, there's no one I trust except you." She rubbed Ziling's head. "Look after the courtyard for me. Don't let anyone with ulterior motives come in and do anything. If anyone makes things difficult for you, just use my name and remember the names of those who bullied you. I'll come back 7 days later and punish them one by one as a warning to others." When Ziling heard that she was the most trusted person of the young miss, a smile immediately appeared on her face and nodded vigorously. "Ling will definitely look after the courtyard. Ling will remember that no livestock is allowed in." Chapter 144. Ziling's bone structure was actually not bad. It was just that this leg was crippled. Yiqing Luo had asked Old Man Song, with the help of the Calder Dragon, it should not be a problem to repair Ziling's leg. At that time, she could let Ziling cultivate together. "Miss!" Ziling was so touched that tears welled up in her eyes. She didn't expect that young miss would still keep her crippled leg in mind until now. By the time Yiqing Luo and Yifengyu arrived at the entrance of Three Springs Sect, another 30 minutes had passed. "Sin!" Yi Tianquang immediately stopped and scolded in a low voice. "Yiqing Luo, what are you doing?" Yiqing Luo shook the steamed bun in her hand and smiled innocently. "Women must dress up before going out." "Dress up?" Everyone stared at Yiqing Luo in unison. This exquisite and sweet face didn't even have any makeup on. Dress up? She was lying through her teeth. Yi Tianquang gritted his teeth and suppressed his anger. "Old madam has been waiting at the entrance to send you, and you're off. Go and apologize yourself." Old madam was supported by Madam Yuchi, leaning on her walking stick. Her face was gloomy and extremely gloomy. Ever since she came out of seclusion, she had been hearing about Yiqing Luo every day. Old madam had personally seen this granddaughter whom she had regarded as trash since childhood, now had great ability and shrewdness. If not for Yi Tianquang needed this daughter to be the future matriarch. She really wanted to see how arrogant this Yiqing Luo was. "So old madam wanted to send me, and little you. Why didn't you tell me earlier if I knew old madam would come? I would have come earlier." Yiqing Luo looked at old madam with a smile. Old madam's eyebrows twitched slightly. Her fingers holding the walking stick tightened. Yiqing Luo's words had another meaning. Others couldn't understand it, but old madam heard it clearly. She and Yi Tianquang deliberately didn't mention the registration fee, just to force Yiqing Luo to take the initiative to ask them. They didn't believe that Yiqing Luo could take out 200 gold coins. Yiqing Luo's words indicated that old madam hadn't looked for her for the past few days, and she was very clear on what she was planning. "All right, it's the first day to report to the academy. Don't be late." The elder master took a deep breath, and his sinister eyes narrowed into a line. Yiqing Luo's brows raised slightly as she curiously swept a glance at old grandmadam and then looked at Yi Tianquang. Both of their faces were terrifyingly gloomy, but neither of them made things difficult for her for being late. Strange, so strange. Ah, big sister, that is. Suddenly, Yi Fengyu, who was carrying his luggage and walking in front, cried out in alarm. He pointed at the door and shouted, "Big sister, quickly come and see." When Yiqing Luo walked out of the residence and followed Yi Fengyu's line of sight, the doubt in her heart was answered. At the entrance of the Three Springs sect, a giant white nine-tailed fox stood proudly with its neck raised high. It was still dragging the luxurious and exquisite carriage behind it. On the back of the nine-tailed fox, a beautiful figure was lying lazily, her purple robes fluttering in the wind. Even if he didn't make a sound, even if he was lying on a nine-tailed fox with his eyes closed, his whole body was still exuding a disdainful and domineering aura. No one dared to look directly at him. As long as one stood within 100 miles of this person, everyone surrendered under his aura. No one was dissatisfied. As if he heard Yiqing Luo's voice, the man lying on his side suddenly opened his eyes. His inky black eyes were dotted with a diamond-like luster as he stared deeply at Yiqing Luo. He stretched out his hand towards Yiqing Luo. His slender fingers were almost transparent white under the sunlight. Chapter 145. Such a simple sentence made a certain part of Yiqing Luo's heart seem to have been struck by something. Her heart uncontrollably beat fiercely. Looking not far away, the purple-robed man, standing against the wind, he stretched out his hand with a smile on the corner of his mouth. It looked so warm. Her legs uncontrollably moved towards the direction of the nine-tailed fox. Between her brows, there was a touch of warmth. This man, why was he able to do things that tugged at her heartstrings every time? A few days ago, he asked the nine-tailed fox to send her back to the mansion, was to lend her his prestige to build momentum. With the escort of the overlord, how could the Yi family be restrained and dare not easily make things difficult for Yiqing Luo? But this time, he actually came to pick her up personally. So ostentatious, so sensational. All he did was to build up momentum for her, to create a force that belonged solely to her. Even if the Heavenly Academy adhered to the principle that no matter what identity the person who entered the Heavenly Academy, they would be treated as ordinary people. But these words also differed from person to person. Otherwise, it would not happen that Yi Qingling was the daughter of the Yi family, so they neglected to check her weapon. Otherwise, the masters of the academy would not be afraid of old man Gui Yu. No matter where, no matter how beautiful the words were, people would always be divided into different classes. Yiqing Luo was personally picked up by the overlord to register in the Heavenly Academy. At this time, those masters who dared to deliberately make things difficult for Yiqing Luo, just like now, after old Grand Madam saw Dmo Xian, all the high and mighty stance she had put up was instantly killed without leaving any dregs. When she saw Yiqing Luo walking towards Dmo Xian, old Grand Madam suddenly thought of something. Her face darkened and quickly pushed Madame Yuchi. At the same time, she hurriedly shouted to Yiqing Luo, "Seventh, wait, Grandma forgot to give you something." This voice made Yiqing Luo, who had lost her soul in a trance, suddenly stopped her footsteps. Her slender eyelashes fluttered slightly. Her charming eyes regained their clarity. After realizing her own thoughts just now, Yiqing Luo had an impulse to dig a hole and bury herself in it. Damn, just now she was actually smitten with Dmo Xian. She actually had feelings for Dmo Xian. This was absolutely Dmo Xian's curse. The entire world had become a fantasy, all right? Number 7. Seeing Yiqing Luo stopping in her tracks, but not responding for a long time, old Grand Madam couldn't help but called out again. Yiqing Luo turned back and looked over. Old Grand Madam forced a stiff smile and waved to her. She took a brocade bag from Madame Yuchi's hand. Number 7. You have to pay 200 gold coins before entering the Heavenly Academy. This is the registration fee that Grandma prepared for you. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her pink lips curled into a ridiculing arc registration fee. That's right, seventh young lady. Ancestor was worried that you would forget, so he ordered me to prepare this bag of gold coins for you. Madame Yuchi nodded repeatedly. Worried that Yiqing Luo would misunderstand, she explained further. Just now I was thinking about your eldest sister and mistakenly passed the gold coin to you. Please calm down, 7th Mississippi. His words were sincere and sincere. That gentle and virtuous look, it was no wonder she was Yiqing Qian's mother and daughter. Yiqing Luo sneered. Her eyes were enchanting. Xiaoyu, take out the money bag. Yifengyu was slightly stunned, took out the brocade bag from his arms, and asked blankly, What's wrong? Return the 200 gold coins to old grandmadam. Yiqing Luo's smile gradually turned cold as she squinted at Yifengyu. Yifengyu continued to be a loss, but he still handed the brocade bag back to Madame Yuchi unconditionally. Madame Yuchi looked at old grandmadam for help. Chapter 146. Old 7th. Old grandmadam frowned, but suppressed her anger due to D.M.O. Xian's presence. Yi Tianquang, whose legs were already numb, couldn't hide his dark expression. Yiqing Luo, don't be capricious. The registration fee for the Heavenly Academy is 200 gold coins. Don't tell me you want to follow you into the academy? Yiqing Luo chuckled. Her sweet voice revealed a bit of enchanting. Entering the Heavenly Academy is Yu's own effort. It has nothing to do with the Yi family. She spread out the feather fan in her hand and suddenly turned into a fluttering butterfly, quickly flying towards Yifengyu. There was a ding sound. The fan hit the money bag and coincidentally swept the money bag to Madame Yuchi. Yiqing Luo stretched out her 5 fingers. The feather fan rotated and fell right into her hand. Let's go. After leaving this sentence, Yiqing Luo walked away incomparably suave. A red dress fluttered like a blooming, coquettish rose. Enchanting and flirtatious, but with a sharp sting. Can only be seen from afar, not blasphemous. Yifengyu looked at the empty palm in a daze and suddenly understood why his sister didn't ask him to return the gold coins to old grandmadam last night. Sister was an alchemist. Naturally, she didn't lack those few hundred gold coins. With her character, she would definitely ask him to return the gold coins to old grandmadam. The reason why she didn't mention it last night was to return the coins to the Yi family in front of so many people today. If he used the Yi family's gold coins, it would be hard for him to refuse all the requests of the Yi family in the Heavenly Academy. His sister had already made all the plans for him. Yifengyu's eyes welled up and immediately caught up with his sister's footsteps. Watching the siblings board the 9-tailed fox's carriage, the Yi family's faces were as black as charcoal. Being humiliated by Yiqing Luo in public, the Yi family had lost all their face this time. In midair, the 9-tailed fox dragged the carriage towards the Heavenly Academy. Yifengyu consciously sat outside the carriage, although he was full of curiosity about DMO Xian, but it was better not to disturb the current situation. Inside the carriage, a purple and a red figure entangled with each other. The minute Yiqing Luo boarded the carriage, she was forcefully pulled into DMO Xian's arms without any room for rejection. The man's arm tightened around her waist. A head of long black hair scattered over Yiqing Luo's body, intertwining with her hair. DMO Xian, how much longer are you going to hug? Yiqing Luo's cheeks were flushed red. Her strength wasn't as great as DMO Xian's, so there was no way she could struggle free. If you have something to say, can't you just say it nicely? Did he have to hug her like this? How about he have a pleasant chat? The man's other hand, his slender fingers running along her hair, gently stroking it. His warm lips pressed against the woman's hair. Above her head, the man's mellow voice came, "Ah Luo, I miss you." 6 words. Yiqing Luo's heart, which was originally beating normally, suddenly sped up. As if triggered by something, the temperature of her cheeks continued to rise. She had heard many sweet nothings. In his previous life, there were countless men who wanted to chase after her, hoping to get a chance to enter the hidden family. There wasn't a man who could move her heart. And in the other world, Lung Fenghua also said a lot of sweet nothings in order to win her back. But none of them could make her blush like Dmo Xian's few simple words, making her heart beat faster. She had to admit that Yin Zheng had long legs. No matter where, in any matter, he had the absolute advantage. Chapter 147. A day apart feels like 3 autumns. I feel like decades have passed since I last saw you. I miss you so much. Dmo Xian rested his head on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. He seemed to like this position very much. Slightly tilting his head, his warm, thin lips would always caress Yi Qing Luo's skin from time to time. His hot breath sprayed on her neck. Yi Qing Luo moved her shoulders unnaturally, trying to avoid him. "Don't move, let me hug you." The man's deep voice sounded in her ear. Yi Qing Luo caught a glimpse of his side profile. His front profile was peerless and evildoer. But this side profile, the contours were deep, the corners of his eyes were slightly raised, adding a quiet gentleness. Without the usual flamboyant charm, there was a bit more calmness, a beauty that made one's heart beat faster. For no reason, she was mesmerized by him. Her struggling, delicate body also unconsciously softened. She pursed her pink lips, trying to hide the blush on her cheeks. "You, why are you here at the Three Springs sect? As a master, on such an important day, how can you not show up and cheer for your disciple?" Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes were slightly tilted. His black pupils were suffused with a bewitching and dazzling luster. Yi Qing Luo was embarrassed. This joke was about to be spoiled. Can't they have a pleasant chat? Speaking of which, Luo, you haven't called me master yet. Dmo Xian's slender fingers suddenly pinched her chin. His fingertip brushed across her pink lips as he smiled magnificently. "Let me hear it." Yi Qing Luo flew into a rage. "I have never personally said that you are my master. Those masters in the academy misunderstood. What has it got to do with me?" A chuckle overflowed from the man's lips. His chest rose up and down because of the laughter. That laughter, clear and melodious, gradually became louder. The man's fingers had slid from Yi Qing Luo's chin to the back of her head. His palm exerted a little force, and she was buckled into his arms. His slender fingers inserted into Yi Qing Luo's hair. Luo seems to like to divert the trouble. Dmo Xian lowered his head slightly. His face was a little closer to Yi Qing Luo's. Yi Qing Luo shrank back a little, unable to adapt to Dmo Xian's approach. However, the man's thin lips were slightly raised, his devilish charming black eyes deeply locked onto Yi Qing Luo. Their eyes met, and their faces came closer and closer. Coincidentally, Yi Fengyu's excited voice came from outside the door. "Sister, we've arrived at the Heavenly Academy." This voice made Yi Qing Luo, who was already intoxicated by Dmo Xian's sandalwood fragrance, immediately regain her senses. When she saw that the man's enlarged face was still a little bit away from her, she suddenly pushed the man's chest with both hands. "We're here. I'm leaving first." Yi Qing Luo escaped from the carriage and jumped off the carriage. The red figure instantly disappeared into the sea of people. Yi Fengyu carried 2 luggage on his back and chased after her. Looking at the direction where his sister disappeared, he was at a loss. Hey, sister, you haven't paid me the registration fee. What should I do if you just leave like this?" A brocade pouch fell on Yi Fengyu's luggage with a thud. Behind him, the man's unique magnetic voice sounded leisurely. "There are 500 gold coins here, enough for your expenses until graduation." Yi Fengyu turned around in a daze. Looking at the raised edge of the carriage, he nervously swallowed his saliva. That? Overlord, sister has money, I don't. Chapter 148. At the Overlord, you took it from you? Wasn't it the money earned from alchemy? Using the Overlord's money to pay for the registration fee, including all expenses? Who was the Overlord? The legend of a Nirvana realm. His stuff was also a legend. It was said that even a piece of leaf in the backyard of the Imperial Palace could be auctioned for dozens of gold coins. He just farted, and everyone was scrambling to say that it smelled good. He actually gave him money. Yi Fengyu's little heart thumped nonstop. This little guy has no time to refine the elixirs sold to the merchants these days. Dmo Xian curled his lips into a faint smile. Based on his understanding of Yiqing Luo, the last swore that she had money. It must be from the profound phoenix ring. Yi Fengyu stood stiffly on the spot. Stunned. Completely stunned. He clutched the money bag in a daze and gave a deep bow to the carriage. Thank you, future brother-in-law. Leaving this sentence, Yi Fengyu hurriedly bowed and ran away. Dmo Xian was stunned for a moment. The words future brother-in-law floated in his mind. His eyebrows overflowed with a warm smile. Brother-in-law, this title was not bad at all. With a joyful smile on his face, Dmo Xian lazily laid down in the carriage and lifted his leg to give the nine-tailed foxes but a kick. Little Nine, who asked you to run so fast? Can't you be tactful and give me some time to spend with Aluo? The nine-tailed fox's tail moved and her black eyes blinked in grievance. Her heart almost collapsed. Damn it. It had already flown 8 to 10 laps around the three-spring city, okay? If it continued to fly, the future mistress would miss the registration time, okay? At the entrance of the Heavenly Academy, people came and went. At a glance, it was a dense mass of people. There were students who came to register, elders who sent their children, and people who came to watch. By the time Yiqing Luo stopped, she was already in the crowd. Where was the figure of Yi Fengyu and Dmo Xian? The money had not been given to little Yu. How was he going to register? Yiqing Luo patted her face. Her heart was extremely annoyed. How could she always be led by the nose by Dmo Xian? He was a hooligan, so she should be even more of a hooligan than him. Yiqing Luo, who had never known how to write the word shy, fled for the first time in her life. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt that she had no face to see Dmo Xian again. The most important thing now was to find Yi Fengyu. He couldn't miss the registration time. Yiqing Luo couldn't sense his presence at all due to the surging crowd. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision seemed to catch a glimpse of a white figure, disappearing in a flash. She frowned. Just now, was that a nine-tailed fox? Nine-tailed fox. As long as she followed nine-tailed fox, Yi Fengyu should still be waiting for her there. Yiqing Luo's feet moved as she immediately sprinted towards the place where the white figure had appeared earlier. She stopped at the back door of the Heavenly Academy. How could there be a nine-tailed fox in this empty and narrow street? Not even a strand of hair could be seen. Could it be an illusion? This back door was quite strange. The front door was filled with people, but the back door was completely silent, giving off a strange atmosphere. Yiqing Luo frowned and was about to leave when she suddenly heard a soft rebuke. Get your hand off me. Stay away from me. The voice came from the corner of the street. Wasn't the Heavenly Academy known for its rigorous learning style? How could there be someone so bold at the back door of the academy? Take your hand off me. Chapter 149. That woman's long green robe was torn into a mess. Her long black hair covered her face, and her hands kept flailing about as she angrily shouted, You dare to touch me? I'll kill you. But her warning and struggle were useless. Following that, a man pounced on the woman. The woman screamed even more miserably. While struggling, she found Yiqing Luo standing by the side, as if she saw her savior. Miss, save me, save me. The man tore the woman's clothes and turned his head to look at Yiqing Luo when he heard the cry for help. That was a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks as he spat viciously. Little girl, get lost. The woman cried for help immediately. Yiqing Luo frowned as a meaningful smile appeared on her face. Not knowing why, she felt something was wrong. She squinted her eyes and suddenly turned around, as if she didn't see them and was ready to leave. Behind her, a violent roar came from the man, Slut. What followed was the woman's painful cry. The woman took advantage of the time when the man and Yiqing Luo were talking and struggled to escape from the man's side. The man took out a dagger and stabbed it into the woman's leg. That stab made the woman's calf bloody, and the woman's face turned pale in pain as she kept screaming. The man pushed the woman to the ground rudely and pressed on top of her again. The woman screamed and begged Yi Qing Luo to save her. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she stopped in her tracks and turned her head. The moment she turned around, she felt a chill on her back. From the corner of her eyes, she caught a glimpse of a dazzling long knife slashing towards her. Her strong perception made Yi Qing Luo instinctively display her footwork. Clang, clang. The long knife slashed empty air and made a swishing sound in midair. The person who sneak attacked her from behind was dressed in black with a veil over his face, holding a long knife in his hand. "Killer, you're smart." That killer sneered as he pointed the long knife at Yi Qing Luo. "Hand over the things on you, and perhaps I can let you live for a few more days." Yi Qing Luo's mouth twitched. What the hell? Dressed up like this in broad daylight. Was he afraid that others wouldn't know he was a killer? Things? In this day and age, there were actually people robbing her? When the killer saw that Yi Qing Luo had no reaction, he leapt into the air and the long knife came piercing toward her face. The saber wind exuded an extremely cold air. Yi Qing Luo tiptoed lightly and took a step back. She narrowed her eyes and fixed her sight on the killer's chest. There was a black light hovering around the assassin's heart. The Mystic Profound Realm should be around Mystic Profound 3rd grade. A Mystic Profound Realm assassin. The other party really thought highly of her. Yi Qing Luo snorted lightly, although the opponent's profound grade was above her, but in terms of overall strength, she might not necessarily lose. If you want to take something from this young matriarch, you have to use something in exchange. Yi Qing Luo opened her feather fan and swept it across her pink lips, revealing an enchanting smile. In the next moment, those slightly narrowed eyes suddenly opened. Her pink lips parted slightly, and her voice was sweet as she spat out a few words, "With your life." Her words had just ended when Yi Qing Luo's figure swayed. Only a red blur could be seen in the air. Ugh, that killer didn't even have time to put up a defensive posture and was sent flying. Yi Qing Luo slowly retracted her leg, waved her feather fan lightly, and smiled incomparably enchanting. "Do you still want it?" Chapter 150. He sneered. Yi Qing Luo's lips also curled into a smile. The corners of her eyes rose slightly, outlining a demonic arc. Her fiery pink lips were extremely enchanting. This smile was reflected in the killer's eyes, making him feel as though he was being targeted by the devil from hell. The feather fan on Yi Qing Luo's fingertips flew into the air in a flash. The feather fan was like a fire dragon, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it whizzed towards Yi Qing Luo's back. The flame was enchanting, colliding with something. Then she heard the sound of a heavy object falling behind her. "Ah, woo." Following that, two screams were heard at the same time. Yi Qing Luo tipped her toes and leaped sideways, landing steadily 5 steps away from the killer. "So many flaws. Still trying to trick me?" Yi Qing Luo sneered as she spread out her hands. The feather fan made a turn and fell back into her palm. The place where Yi Qing Luo was standing was in a triangular terrain. On the left was the killer who fell on the ground, clutching his chest as he panted heavily. On the right was the man and woman who were tugging at each other, also lying on the ground. "How did you know we are together?" That woman's face, there was no longer any trace of pain from being taken advantage of, as she asked with a cold face. "Because he—" Yi Qing Luo pointed at the man lying on the ground. Her eyes squinted as she gave a charming smile. As a man who was releasing his beast bath, after seeing this young matriarch, he actually berated this young matriarch to leave, which is illogical. That man and woman's brows twitched. Wasn't this lady overly confident of her own looks? Although the monkey-like man wanted to reply in this way, but when he saw the smiling face, charming eyes of the woman, he swallowed his words. What she said seemed to make sense. He couldn't refute. Using such a method to attract my attention, then sneak an attack from behind? Yiqing Luo's smile deepened. Unfortunately, this young matriarch has never been a good person. Yiqing Luo spread out her fingers. A burst of profound qi condensed on the feather fan. Immediately, the feather fan drew out a few small knives which were emitting flames like scattered flowers in the rain, directly towards the three men. The three people on the ground looked at each other. Simultaneously, they slammed their palms on the ground and soared into the sky. He swiftly avoided the fire blade and attacked Yiqing Luo at the same time. The moves and movements of the three were almost exactly the same, like mirrors facing each other, repeating the same movements. Profound qi burst forth from the three of them with irresistible force. Indeed, not an ordinary killer. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. If he could use such a method to attract her attention, he would naturally use a weak method to lower her vigilance. These tricks, Yiqing Luo had long been tired of playing them in her past life. Since you've been discovered, don't blame us for giving you a painful death. The expressions of the three assassins turned cold. They leaped up at the same time and fiercely struck out with their palms. Rumble. The sound of the earth quaking and the mountains shaking caused the ground to crack. The majestic and terrifying profound qi was like a mountain torrent, burying Yiqing Luo in it. A mere low-grade yellow Xian practitioner dares to act impudently in front of us. The assassin snorted disdainfully. The number of people in the world who could escape from the combined attack of the three of them could be counted on one hand. There's nothing left of her. Go and find the ring on her finger. The assassin looked at the woman. The woman revealed some displeasure. She's already exploded into pieces. You want me to find a ring? His lordship instructed, we must bring that ring back. Chapter 151. Ring. A clear and melodious voice came from behind them. The three of them were aghast as they looked back immediately, only to see Yiqing Luo's red dress fluttering amidst the flying sand and gravel. Her skirt swayed along with the strong airwaves, like a dazzling fire lotus standing on the fire. After the airwaves dissipated, Yiqing Luo's breathtaking face appeared in front of them. Yiqing Luo. She was not dead yet. The three killers' faces changed drastically. They had not expected Yiqing Luo's strength to be so strong, to be able to avoid their combined palm strike. Who is the lord you were talking about? Why do you want my ring? Yiqing Luo walked slowly towards them. The three of them were aghast as they stared at her vigilantly and subconsciously moved back. Obviously, there was no fluctuation of profound qi on Yiqing Luo. It was obvious that Yiqing Luo's profound grade was below theirs. But the trio's fear and terror towards Yiqing Luo drove their body's instincts to avoid her. Not willing to say, Yiqing Luo snorted, her feather fan pressed against her pink lips as she smiled enchantingly. Since the three of you are unwilling to cooperate, then there's no point in keeping you here. Her words had just ended when the feather fan on her fingertips flew out ferociously. Like a raging flame, it engulfed everything it passed through. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of the three killers. The red flame condensed profound qi, enveloping the three of them tightly. Good fellow, young matriarch, Yi is indeed powerful. The killer looked at Yiqing Luo coldly and immediately retracted his gaze, exchanging glances with the other two beside him. Immediately, the three of them used their hands and feet to condense their profound qi once again and struck out a palm strike that could collapse the mountains and crack the earth. This palm strike was even more imposing than the previous one. Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly as her brows knitted slightly. Her profound grade, under the combined force of the three of them, would be reduced to slag in seconds. These three people's profound qi was oppressive. Even with her set of footwork, she could not avoid it safely. Just now she was able to avoid that palm strike because she had been painstakingly studying the blink movement for the past few days. Seeing the profound qi blasting towards her, Yiqing Luo concentrated and held her breath. His figure suddenly turned into a red afterimage and disappeared. Boom, boom, boom. A thunderous sound reverberated as that palm wind struck the spot where Yi Qing Luo was standing at earlier. The ground cracked open, and a violent, profound energy stacked up layer by layer. For a moment, the entire street was engulfed in billowing dust. The next time Yi Qing Luo appeared, she was already at the end of the alley. Facing her, the raging wind was still howling, fluttering Yi Qing Luo's long hair, fluttering her elegant long dress. When the smoke dissipated, the three assassins were nowhere to be seen except for the rubble in front of them. Ran away? Yi Qing Luo's brows creased as her gaze immediately sensed the surroundings vigilantly. Pa-pa-pa, ding-ling, pa-pa-pa, ding-ling. Right at this moment, a crisp sound of a slap resounded. Yi Qing Luo was in a state of alertness when she was shocked by the sudden noise as her feather fan was instantly pinched on her fingertips. At the corner of the street, a petite figure was walking over. That was a young lady who looked like she was carved out of jade. Her height was estimated to be 4 meters. Yi Qing Luo's body in this other world was just right for her height. And this young lady, standing in front of her, was actually shorter than her by a full head. She was dressed in a seemingly shabby pink long dress. The edge of the skirt hung a few strands of fluffy little balls, which made the young lady incomparably cute. Chapter 152. This appearance was a living Lolita, but the young lady's pair of indifferent and cold eyes were extremely inconsistent with her appearance. That was a pair of noble, arrogant eyes. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as she examined the young lady in front of her, secretly guessing if she was a friend or foe. But in a blink of an eye, that young lady's eyes had lost all its brilliance as she lowered her eyelids and the applause in her hand stopped abruptly. This change, the change in that pair of eyes, it really aroused one's interest. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up as she hid away the defensive expression on her face. Little lass, how long have you been watching the show? Those 3 people are Godless Island's 3 evils. The young lady's voice was soft, and it was an extremely pure baby's voice. This kind of voice coupled with this appearance. Yi Qing Luo almost suspected that the chilly indifference she saw in the young lady's eyes earlier was it a misconception. Stabilizing her thoughts, Yi Qing Luo sized her up. Godless Island? 3 evils? Godless Island. She had heard of it before. Nirvana Realm's #1 evil force, #1 island. It was rumored that it was comparable to the Imperial Palace's evil force. 3 evils. What the hell was that? The young lady opened her mouth at the right time. Those are the 3 loyal little dogs raised by the Godless Island's Island Lord. They are triplets and have extremely strong telepathy. I have only seen one person who can deal with the 3 of them at the same time. Triplets? What joke? Those 3 people, no matter how she looked, they didn't look like triplets. No one knows what the 3 evils look like. Other than killing, their disguise skills are the best. The young lady saw the astonishment in Yi Qing Luo's eyes as she raised her brows and continued. Disguise skills. That's right. If they were Godless Island's killers, they would not make such a low-level mistake. That pair of man and woman who were tugging and pulling in front of her were definitely in disguise. Why would Godless Island's people look for me? Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly as she lowered her eyes and stared at the ring on her ring finger. The young lady spread out her hands and shrugged. Didn't the 3 evils say it was because of the ring in your hand? The blood-colored jade ring was faintly leaping with a ball of flowing, subtle fire. This ring was given to her by Immerse. Why? Did the Island Lord of Godless Island want Immerse's ring? Could it be that the profound Phoenix ring was hiding some sort of secret? Yi Qing Luo's brows creased tightly, and just as she was about to sink into deep thoughts, she suddenly discovered that the Lolita young lady was still in front of her. Why do you know so much about the Godless Island? Compared to the Imperial Palace, the Godless Island was even more mysterious. There were very few people who could accurately recognize the disguised Wu San Sha as Wu San Sha and confirm that the three of them were from Godless Island. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed. The corners of her long and narrow eyes rose slightly as her lips curled into a smile, which didn't look like a smile. You are from the Godless Island? Pausing, Yi Qing Luo's tone rose slightly. Her sweet voice added a few hints of enchanting. Or, you want me to target Godless Island? The girl blinked her lifeless eyes. She tilted her head, her slightly curly hair covering half of her face. Although she was expressionless, her appearance was still adorable and touching. She seemed to be unable to understand the meaning behind Yi Qing Luo's words. Yi Qing Luo sneered. The devilish glint in her eyes suddenly stopped. The feather fan in her hands was like a blazing rainbow, striking towards the young lady's face. Chapter 153. The young girl stood there in a daze and did not evade. There was no fluctuation of profound qi around her. Yi Qing Luo's brows knitted tightly as she squinted her eyes and stared deeply at the young girl's chest. There was no trace of profound jade heart glow at all. Could it be this little Lolita was an ordinary person? But that pair of cold and indifferent eyes of little Lolita could not be erased from her mind, as that flame was just a little distance away from the young girl. The young girl's head moved slightly as she spat out a sentence without any expression, coming. Just as her voice fell, without waiting for Yi Qing Luo to ponder what was the meaning of this coming, she heard a low roar from the other end of the street. Who dares to create trouble in the Heavenly Academy? Immediately, Yi Qing Luo felt a strong, profound qi fluctuation coming from the direction of the sound. How did Lil Lolita know that the people from the Heavenly Academy were here? Yi Qing Luo retracted her gaze from the street and looked at little Lolita again. There was no one in front of her. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed. That little Lolita was indeed not an ordinary person. She could actually disappear under her eyelids. Why couldn't she see little Lolita's profound jade heart? Yi Qing Luo had no time to think about these questions. Those masters from the Heavenly Academy had already led a group of guards to the street. The leading master was one of the 3 judges who sat on the main stage during the ability assessment. The moment he saw Yi Qing Luo and saw the mess on the ground, his grizzled brows wrinkled into a ball. Yi, 7th Miss Yi, what's going on? The master's face revealed a difficult expression. Originally, he still had a proud look, but now he had to show a smiling face to Yi Qing Luo. They were in high spirits at the front door of the Heavenly Academy, welcoming the new students. Immediately, they heard the guard report that there was a profound qi fluctuation at the back door of the Heavenly Academy. Moreover, the profound grade was not a match, and the destructive power was also very strong. The master thought that it was another school who specially came to create trouble on the day of the new students' admission. With that, he led the guards and rushed over in a threatening manner. But why was there only Yi Qing Luo alone in the mess and among the flying sand and gravel? Could it be that powerful, profound qi fluctuation was released by Yi Qing Luo? There were too many people, and I accidentally lost my way. Coincidentally, I met some people who wanted to sneak into the Heavenly Academy from the back door, so I taught them a lesson. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes and lied with a straight face. Then, he shook his head helplessly and sighed. But the other party's profound rank is above mine. It's a pity to let them escape. Hearing this, the headmaster's face suddenly changed. Who is it? As for the person, I'm not sure. Yi Qing Luo's eyes revealed a crafty look as she lowered her voice and chuckled. But there was a student from the Heavenly Academy present at that time, and she seemed to recognize those people. Who are they? The headmaster frowned. He was even more certain that those people were sent by other schools. Every year, when they recruited new students, the various academies would rack their brains to recruit new students. They wished that they could take all the geniuses for themselves so that they could become the best academy. As the best academy that had stood strong for many years, it naturally became a thorn in the eyes of the other academies. Those people actually knew the students of the Heavenly Academy? Could it be there was a traitor? Chapter 154. Yiqing Luo briefly described the little Lolita's appearance. She believed that it would be a piece of cake for the master to find such a unique little Lolita. Yiqing Luo restrained the teasing smile on her lips and smiled. I shall not disturb the master's protection of the academy. I have not registered yet, so I'll head over first. She had said that she was not a good person. Since the little Lolita wanted to play mysterious with her, if she did not fight back, was she still human? It would be a piece of cake for her to find the little Lolita with the help of a famous master in the Heavenly Academy. She didn't need to be mysterious. She just needed to wait for the little Lolita to take the bait. After listening to Yiqing Luo's description, a strange look appeared on the master's face. When he heard that she had not registered yet, he nodded repeatedly. When Yiqing Luo was about to leave, the master called her again. This is the first time old man Guiyu accepted a disciple. He has been pacing back and forth nervously in the courtyard since early morning. If 7th Miss is free, please bring 8th young master over to have a look. Yiqing Luo smiled and bowed slightly to the master. Thank you for your reminder. I will bring Xiaoyu over after the registration. Seeing that Yiqing Luo finally smiled, the master heaved a sigh of relief. There are too many arrays around the Heavenly Academy. If 7th Miss can't find a registration place, let the guards send you there, lest you break into the array and harm your safety. Yiqing Luo was worried about not knowing the way and naturally nodded when she heard this decision. Wow, heavens! I can actually see the Mu brothers at the registration time. One of the students screamed in disbelief. Don't tell me the Mu brothers have relatives enrolled in the school? It was said that the Mu brothers would only appear in the academy during the high profound class. But this time, not only did they appear during the ability assessment, but also, speaking of which, I remember now, during the ability assessment, the Mu brothers seemed to be the only one who went to the challenge between the Yi 7th Miss and the Yi 4th Miss. Yiqing Luo looked towards the direction of the crowd and indeed saw the Mu brothers, like a celebrity meeting, struggling to move forward in the crowd. Especially when she saw the bitter look on Mu Zifei's face and the sullen expression in his eyes, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh out loud. 7th Miss and the 2 young masters of the Mu family. Guardy noticed Yiqing Luo's line of sight and asked out of curiosity. After asking, he stopped abruptly and changed the topic. The 2 young masters of the Mu family are students from the High Profound class. After 7th Miss has registered, I will help you to memorize the route to the High Profound class. After that, the guard scratched his head. That's not right. Miss 7 is the young master of the Three Springs sect and the disciple of the Overlord. I don't think anyone in the academy would dare to bully Miss 7. Yiqing Luo smiled without saying a word. The 2 of them, one in front and one behind, passed through the crowd and were about to reach the registration area. Another wave of clamor was heard, followed by exclamations from all around. It's the Yuchi clan's 3rd young master. I heard that 3rd young master Yuchi is the first new student to be admitted into the academy. Yuchi? Hearing this surname, Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she looked over. She saw a figure approaching from afar at an extremely fast speed. That person was sitting on the back of a giant leopard, dressed in a smoky brocade robe. The collar extended to the sleeves and was embroidered with gold. Chapter 155. The 3rd young master of the Yuchi family, Yuchi-I. That giant leopard was at least a high-level magical beast. To be able to ride on a magical beast to report was enough to prove how strong he was. Especially that leopard. It was ferocious and was not to be trifled with. It was indeed the style of the Yuchi family to appear in such a domineering manner. Yiqing Luo sneered and withdrew her gaze. She had no interest in Yuchi-I. That guard had been wondering if he had said something wrong. At this moment, when he heard Yiqing Luo's laughter and saw her staring at Yuchi-I, he hurriedly said, That is the third young master of the Yuchi family, one of the four great families in the West Continent. For this year's enrollment, 3 of the 4 major families have sent their children over, and they have all passed the assessment. If there are no accidents, they should be entering the High Profound class. 3 families' children were admitted into the Heavenly Academy. It was no wonder that the master was worried that people from other schools would come over to make trouble. Yiqing Luo nodded lightly. Don't bother about insignificant people. After that, she turned to the registration counter and took the registration form. Seeing that she was filling in the form, the guard touched his nose and kept quiet. After filling in the form, Yiqing Luo took out 200 gold coins from the Profound Phoenix ring and handed it over together with the registration form. The procedure was very simple. In less than half an hour, the master handed over a wooden token, a badge, and a piece of paper with black and white characters. The wooden token was the size of a palm and felt very good. You could vaguely feel the surge of spiritual chi from the wooden token. It should be made from a good spiritual tree. As for the badge, it was gray and dull, without any luster or pattern. Looking at the paper, it was the receipt of the school uniform. Yiqing Luo kept them all and immediately took out another bag of gold coins. She smiled and said, "Master, I got separated from my brother. The registration fee is with me. If he comes to register later, please inform him for me." She said Yi Fengyu's name and handed over the gold coins. Yiqing Luo became famous in the ability assessment and had a close relationship with the overlord. The master recognized her at a glance. "I'm so busy that I'm confused. Just now, 8th young master Yi had paid the registration fee and entered the school. He specifically instructed me to inform 7th Miss when I see her. Paid the registration fee? Yi Fengyu had so many gold coins on him? Could it be?" In Yiqing Luo's mind, an image of a man dressed in purple suddenly appeared. The emotion? At once, Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. She shook her head and thanked him. After the guard sent Yiqing Luo into the academy, he then left. Before he left, he also gave Yiqing Luo a handbook of the Heavenly Academy, saying that this was a gift from the master to her. In this handbook, there were many records of the Heavenly Academy's glorious history, the Academy's rules and moral ideals. The last few pages had some simple introductions about the Heavenly Academy. It was said that there were no more than 100 copies of this manual in the entire academy. Those who had the handbook were either from powerful families or powerful individuals. They were all people that the headmaster of the academy wanted to nurture. From the handbook, Yiqing Luo also understood that the wooden token given her by the master was the proof to enter and exit the school, which was equivalent to a student ID. The wooden plaque contained all the information of the student. Even the changes in the profound grade were recorded clearly. This was also convenient for the teachers of the academy to understand the abilities and aptitudes of each student. And that badge was like the horizontal bar on the shoulder of the master. It was a symbol of status. The badges of freshmen were all dusty. Only after the class was allocated and the class guide opened it, the badge would show the class that the freshmen were in. Chapter 156. Yiqing Luo touched the badge on her chest. She still had no idea what class she was in. Probably High Profound class. Although her profound grade was not high enough to enter the High Profound class, but High Profound class should be without a doubt. High Profound class. There were quite a few acquaintances there. In the Heavenly Academy, she might not be able to settle down and just go to school. Yiqing Luo collected her thoughts and kept the school's handbook. She injected profound chi into the wooden token according to the handbook's instructions. The wooden tablet flashed slightly, and a row of golden words appeared on it. Name, Yiqing Luo. Gender, female. Age, 15. Profound grade, yellow. Profound 9th grade. Identity, young matriarch of Three Springs sect, Yi family's 7th Missy. Yiqing Luo's finger rubbed the top, and in a flash, the location of her dormitory appeared. Following the display, Yiqing Luo arrived at the dormitory, and there was no one inside. No wonder, it was the best academy. The environment of the dormitory was excellent, even better than her courtyard in the Yi family. Yiqing Luo looked through the rooms one by one. There were a total of 4 rooms. The layout and decoration of each room were exactly the same. Perhaps it was the women's room. There were a few strings of shell-shaped wind chimes hanging on the wall of each room. Each room also had a window. A mahogany square table was placed next to the window with a bouquet of gorgeous blue flowers. Ow ow! Chi-Chi's white fluffy little body sprang out from Yiqing Luo's shoulder and let out a low moan. Chi-Chi! Yiqing Luo was overjoyed and rubbed Chi-Chi's little head. Have you rested well? Chi-Chi let out a cry and rubbed its head against Yiqing Luo's palm. Its pair of tiger eyes had turned into a curved line from smiling. Yiqing Luo chuckled softly. Her eyes were filled with gentleness. Other than the things the academy had prepared, the 4 rooms were empty. Obviously, the other roommates had not been to the dormitory yet. Yiqing Luo randomly chose a room and walked in. Her belongings were with Yi Fengyu. She could only wait until the master held the freshman assembly tonight to meet him and get her belongings back. The room had been cleaned by professional people. It was spotless and free of dust. Yiqing Luo lay directly on the bed and hugged Chi-Chi on her abdomen, her fingers caressing its head. For the next few days, we're going to be busy, so we'll have to trouble you. Chi-Chi nodded. Towards Chi-Chi, Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with guilt. From Old Man Song, Yiqing Luo found out that the contract between Chi-Chi and her was a blood pact, which meant that Chi-Chi would forever be her battle pet for all eternity. The blood contract was enough to prove Chi-Chi's loyalty. But the biggest drawback was Chi-Chi's strength would also be suppressed because Yiqing Luo's profound grade was too low. After forming a contract with Chi-Chi, Chi-Chi spent most of its time sleeping in the pet beast space. For pet beasts, sleep was a catalyst for growth and evolution. As one of the 4 ancient saint beasts, Chi-Chi's strength was suppressed to 0 in an instant. This was extremely damaging to the beast's body. Even though Chi-Chi knew the consequences, she still chose to form a contract with her without hesitation. This made Yiqing Luo even more touched. She secretly swore in her heart that she would find her profound jade heart as soon as possible and work hard to improve her strength and raise her profound grade. Whoa. As if it sensed its master's thoughts, Chi-Chi's little paws moved towards Yiqing Luo, and its little head rubbed against her. At this moment, the dormitory room's door was opened. Chapter 157. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Living with such a barbaric roommate, it would be difficult for him to have a peaceful life in the future. She heard the sound of the door being slammed shut, and that pampered girl walked briskly into the dormitory. Yiqing Luo could hear the girl's footsteps. It seemed that she was checking the rooms one by one. She could vaguely hear the girl grumbling in a low voice. What kind of lousy place is this? Not even half as good as home. Father really has the heart to send me here to suffer. She could hear that this was a spoiled brat. After a while, the brat opened the door to Yiqing Luo's room. Seeing that someone was lying on the bed, her expression changed immediately, pointing at Yiqing Luo and cursing. Hey, who do you think you are? How dare you? I haven't chosen a room yet, and you've already occupied it. The pampered and willful brat thought that no matter where she went, she was not afraid of anything. Seeing that Yiqing Luo was lying motionless, the brat flew into a rage and strode forward, stretching out her hand to grab Yiqing Luo. I want this room. Get out of here. She had just moved into the dormitory and met a lunatic. It had nothing to do with her if the lunatic provoked others. However, this lunatic had to provoke her. Yiqing Luo's face sank. Her charming eyes narrowed coldly. Get out of here. Just as the brat's hand was about to grab Yiqing Luo, her wrist was held tightly by Yiqing Luo. 5 fingers exerted a little force, only to hear the sound of bones breaking. The brat cried out in pain, clutching her wrist, and staggered back. You! How dare you lay your hands on me? Do you know that I am one of the 4 great families? Shangguan family's 5th Miss Shangguan Lu Li. Shangguan Lu Li's wrist was in severe pain. The girl who had never suffered the slightest grievance at home couldn't stop her tears from flowing out. Yiqing Luo sneered and slowly sat up straight. Chi-Chi's small body nimbly jumped onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder, poked out her little head, and stared at Shangwan Luli fiercely. Shangwan? The miss of the Shangwan family, is this all you can do? Hearing Yiqing Luo's ridicule, Shangwan Luli's tears flowed even more violently. She stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo, especially when she saw that sweet and enchanting face of Yiqing Luo. Her heart was filled with jealousy. His vision fell onto the little fur ball on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Chi-Chi's ferocious look was not fierce at all when paired with this furry white cat's appearance. On the contrary, it was adorable. As soon as Shangwan Liuli saw this cute little thing, her eyes immediately couldn't move away. She rubbed her wrist and stared at Chi-Chi, putting on an expression as if she was bestowing a gift. Give me the kitten on your shoulder, and I'll let you have this room. I won't hold it against you for hurting me. Miss, which eye of yours saw that I didn't want to be calculated with you? Yiqing Luo's eyes twitched. This brow was rather similar to Lung Fenghua. Both of them were living in their own world. Scram. Yiqing Luo leaned back against the headboard and spat out a word coldly. Her knees bent slightly. One hand rested on her knee and closed her eyes. She didn't even bother to look at Shangwan Luli. Chapter 158. Shangwan Liuli gritted her teeth in hatred and wanted to rush up to teach Yiqing Luo a lesson. But when she thought of how Yiqing Luo broke her hand without hesitation, she didn't dare to act rashly. When had a spoiled and arrogant girl ever been bullied like this? Looking at Yiqing Luo's indifferent and arrogant look, Shangwan Liuli felt even more wronged and angry. A pair of hazy, tearful eyes burned with a fiery light. Just you wait. Don't think that you don't have to worry about my identity in the academy. Not to mention outside the academy. I have 100 ways to torture you to death. Even in the academy, I can still make you wish you were dead. Yiqing Luo suddenly opened her eyes, a pair of charming eyes, suffused with a cold chill. Just one look, and Shangwan Liuli was scared to take a few steps back. Shangwan Liuli's face was full of shame and anger. The dignified fifth miss of Shangwan was actually scared of this look by a little slut. If this was spread out, how was she going to mix around? If you wait for me, my brother is a student of the high profound class. After saying that, Shangwan Liuli wiped her tears and ran out. She happened to bump into the woman who opened the dormitory door and walked in. The woman's figure was petite and dressed in pink. Shangwan Liuli was still angry and didn't dare to vent her anger on Yiqing Luo. Now that she had a punching bag, it was also to prove that her identity was strong. Without any explanation, a slap landed on the face of the woman who bumped into her. I'm owing you. Didn't I say, don't even think of stepping into this dormitory today? How dare you defy my orders? The woman fell to the ground from the slap. Her small hands, supported on the ground, slightly curled up long hair, covered half of the woman's face. However, his pair of gloomy and lifeless eyes were so calm that it was terrifying. After being slapped, the woman didn't get angry, didn't cry, and didn't make a fuss. She just quietly and silently tried to get up. However, her forbearance greatly agitated Shangwan Liuli. Shangwan Liuli stepped on the woman's pink sleeve with one foot and kicked hard with the other. Who allowed you to get up? Crawl out of here. The woman was kicked again. However, the expression on his face did not change. There wasn't even pain or a frown on his face. She didn't move and just lay on the ground. She allowed Shangwan Liuli to step on her sleeve. Through the open door, Yiqing Luo could see everything that happened in the hall. He also recognized the woman on the ground with a single glance. Wasn't she the little Lolita who told Yiqing Luo about Godless Island and Godless Three Devils at the Academy's back door? Unexpectedly, she was thinking of asking the headmaster to find the little Lolita. He and the little Loli became roommates. This was fate. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as she flipped over and got up from the bed. She slowly walked towards the little Loli. Shangguan Liuli's expression changed. What are you going to do? You're too noisy. Yiqing Luo picked her ears and lazily lifted her eyelids. It's very ear-piercing. I can't stand it. In other words, he was insulting Shangguan Liuli's voice. Not waiting for Shangguan Liuli to cry out in anger, Yiqing Luo had already walked past her and stopped in front of the little Lolita. Yiqing Luo bent down and stretched out her hand to the little Lolita. Your name is Mo Ingyu? The little Lolita nodded silently. A pair of dull eyes stared at Yiqing Luo blankly. She wanted to put her hand in Yiqing Luo's hand, but her sleeve was stepped on by Shangguan Liuli and could not move. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways, the corner of her mouth raised into a shallow arc. Chapter 159. In this era, the fist was the hard truth. She had merely let Shangguan Liuli taste some bitterness. At this moment, Shangguan Liuli was filled with fear towards Yiqing Luo. She stomped her feet and angrily rebuked. You know who she is? She is a waste from the Earth Profound class. The one with the worst aptitude and foundation and never goes to class. Shangguan Liuli felt extremely aggrieved. This woman didn't fawn on her, one of the 4 great families, but helped a waste instead. Was she sick in the head? Yiqing Luo didn't know what Shangguan Liuli was thinking and wasn't interested to know. She chuckled, and her eyes were filled with endless ridicule. So what? Waste. Earth Profound class? Yiqing Luo didn't believe that a person with that pair of cold and proud eyes would be a waste. Even now, Mo Ingyu's lifeless eyes were destined to not be an ordinary person. What's more, to be able to clearly mention the godless island and the 3 evils would be a waste. Shangguan Liuli was choked by Yiqing Luo's words and turned to leave with a flushed face. Lowly trash is lowly trash. If the 2 of you get together, you'll be able to form a group of trash. Huh. Shangguan Liuli slammed the door with a loud bang. The entire dormitory seemed to be shaken. Why didn't you fight back? Yiqing Luo held her hand and pulled her up with a little force. Mo Ingyu tilted her head and looked at Yiqing Luo with a pair of lifeless eyes without saying a word. Even the hand that held Yiqing Luo's hand was frozen there and didn't withdraw. It was like a puppet without a soul. This thought stunned Yiqing Luo, and she subconsciously tightened her grip on Mo Ingyu's hand. The touch was soft, smooth, and the temperature was normal. 5 fingers clasped her wrist, and there was a pulse beating. She was 100% sure that Mo Ingyu was a person. But why did a person live like a puppet without any expression or soul? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly and let go of Mo Ingyu's hand. She didn't want to say, and Yiqing Luo naturally didn't bother to ask. It was until Yiqing Luo returned to her own room and was about to close the door when that little Lolita, who had been standing at the same spot in silence, slowly raised her head. Fighting back is troublesome. I'm tired. It was still the same childish voice, spitting out the words one by one. Because he found it troublesome and tiring, he obediently took the beating. This answer made Yiqing Luo really speechless. Then, at the back door of the academy, why did you watch the show in the dark and even lead me to change my target to the godless island? This time, Mo Ingyu answered quickly. That's the 3 evils of Wu. How do you prove it? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes. Mo Ingyu's face was expressionless, her eyes empty. Yiqing Luo couldn't use her ability to see through people's hearts on Mo Ingyu. Mo Ingyu blinked her eyes. Her delicate and adorable little face began to change slightly. Her delicate and thin eyebrows were knitted together. Her entire face was wrinkled, and a trace of hostility appeared between her brows. Her pink lips pouted as she muttered in a flustered and exasperated manner. Troublesome. How troublesome. So troublesome. She flicked her sleeves, and the 2 pink fur balls on her sleeves swayed. The black bell gave out a jingle-jingle sound. Immediately, Mo Ingyu went straight into the room next to Yiqing Luo's and closed the door. Yiqing Luo touched her nose. This was the first time she met with a rebuff since she came to this strange world. Chapter 160. Yiqing Luo rested in the dormitory for a few hours until she heard the school's huge bell ringing. She rubbed her eyes and got up from the bed. Looking at the sky outside the window, it should be around 5 p.m. now. There was still half an hour before the freshmen's meeting. Yiqing Luo stretched herself, and Chi jumped off the bed. Its little body trembled as it raised its head and licked its lips. Hungry. Speaking of which, I'm a little hungry too. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand towards Chi and it leaped up. One person and one beast went out of the room. Mo Yingyu's room was still tightly shut. Yiqing Luo couldn't sense her breath and didn't know if she was in the room at this time. Shangguan Liuli still hadn't returned. The dormitory was quiet, and there was no sign of human activity. Yiqing Luo sighed and opened the door. Just as she was about to go out, a delicate lady rushed towards her and collided with her. Chi was knocked flying and rolled on Yiqing Luo's bed. It opened its mouth and smelled its master's warm scent. It closed its eyes and fell asleep again. Yiqing Luo didn't notice it and looked at the lady who was knocked down. She was dressed in a long emerald green dress with unique hair tied up and a pretty face. The lady also wore a silk bracelet on her wrist and a pink belt with gold patterns on her waist. She looked extremely youthful and lively. Sorry. The lady quickly bowed down to apologize and squatted on the ground to pick up the scattered luggage. I'm the one who knocked into you. I should be the one apologizing. Yiqing Luo hooked her lips and squatted down to pick up the luggage for the lady. Yiqing Luo's principle was very simple. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. Just like this lady, her attitude was gentle. As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling face. Moreover, this was her roommate, someone who would be living together for a period of time in the future. Yiqing Luo's expression softened a little. After picking up the luggage for the lady, she hugged the package and stuck out her tongue in embarrassment. Sorry to let you see such a joke. This is my room, and that room is also occupied. You can choose one of the other two. Yiqing Luo pointed to the remaining 2 rooms. The lady walked towards the room opposite Yiqing Luo and pushed the door open. Tossing the things onto the bed, a satisfied expression appeared on his face. Phew, the environment is really good. I've finally arrived at the academy. I must have a feast tonight to make up for my exhaustion today. She opened her arms and twirled around. When he turned towards Yiqing Luo, he then realized that there was someone else in the room. His movements immediately stiffened, and he awkwardly scratched his head as he smiled. I am sorry, I embarrassed myself again. I'm used to being at home. It's okay. She's cute. Yiqing Luo curled her lips and stretched out her hand. I'm Yiqing Luo, your roommate. Let's take care of each other in future. She was indeed very cute, compared to those who looked gentle on the surface, but were actually cruel and merciless. Yiqing Luo preferred someone like Shangguan Liuli or this girl, someone who could see through one's thoughts. At the very least, there was no need to painstakingly plot against each other. My name is Lu Xiaoyu. The woman hurriedly stretched out her hand and shook hands with Yiqing Luo. Finally, there was a normal person. Pack your luggage. I'll gotta find something to eat. Yiqing Luo glanced at the messy things on the bed. Are you hungry? I have a lot of food here. Lu Xiaoyu rummaged through the pile of things on the bed and took out a tightly tied package. She sat on the bed and placed the package on her lap. Her fingers deftly untied the knot. It was a wooden box. After opening it, there were a total of 3 layers inside, and each layer was filled with exquisite pastries. Chapter 161. Lu Xiaoyu nibbled on the pastry and didn't forget to pass the wooden box to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was indeed hungry and didn't stand on ceremony. She took out a piece and nibbled on it. A strong red bean taste filled her mouth, leaving a fragrant aftertaste in her mouth. Delicious, right? Lu Xiaoyu raised her eyebrows proudly. Our chef is the best chef. I love these pastries the most. Yiqing Luo nodded with a smile. The taste was indeed good. Do you know who our other two roommates are? Yiqing Luo finished the pastries and wiped her hands. Mo Ingyu, Shangwan Lu Li. Lu Xiaoyu put the wooden box on the bed and stood up suddenly. Shangwan Lu Li is also in this dormitory? Yiqing Luo nodded lightly. Then she was crying outside that someone bullied her. It was you? Lu Xiaoyu's eyes widened in disbelief. Crying? Bullied? Yiqing Luo's eyes twitched. Shangwan Lu Li really didn't care about her reputation at all? Crying outside? Was she afraid that others wouldn't know that the dignified Shangwan Fifth Missy was bullied on the first day of school? If I'm not wrong, it should be me. Wow. Lu Xiaoyu held Yiqing Luo's hand with both hands. Her dark eyes sparkled brightly. Qing Luo, you're amazing. Shangwan Lu Li is a mystic profound second grade. It is said that she has been allocated to the high profound class. You actually beat her. After shouting excitedly, Lu Xiaoyu's face sank. But you have to be careful. Shangwan Lu Li's third brother is in the high profound class and has gathered a group of his own forces in the Heavenly Academy. If you offend Shangwan Lu Li, her third brother will definitely find trouble with you. My principle is not to cause trouble, but also not to be afraid of trouble. Yiqing Luo smiled and let go of Lu Xiaoyu's hand. All right, I will settle Shangwan Lu Li's matter. You go and tidy up the room first. The freshman assembly is about to start. When it was time, the school bell rang. A burst of neat and loud voices spread from the school. Listening to the voices, there were about a dozen people, and they used their profound energy to spread their voices to every corner of the academy. Attention, new students! Attention, new students! Hurry and report to the academy's plaza. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, all the new students must arrive at the plaza. Otherwise, it will be a major demerit. The voice rang out more than 10 times before it stopped. Outside the door, the clamor of students could be heard as they swarmed towards the square. Yiqing Luo remembered the punishment for mistakes she had seen in the handbook. A student only had 3 major demerits and 5 minor demerits. Once a mistake exceeded the record, they would be fired. Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu packed up and arrived at the public square together. The two women, one cold and enchanting, the other elegant and charming, immediately attracted the attention of countless people. Although there were quite a number of beauties in the academy, but there weren't many stunning beauties like Yiqing Luo. Moreover, who would complain about having too many beauties? Yiqing Luo found a spot and pulled Lu Xiaoyu to a corner. The academy occupied a vast area with a total of more than 50 halls. There was also a huge square which was even bigger than the assessment square. It was divided into 3 sections: high profound class, intermediate class, and earth profound class. There were all kinds of learning equipment, weapons, and so on. This was the place for students to train and exercise. Their freshman assembly was held in this square. The time it took to burn a stick of incense was soon up. Chapter 162. The Freshman Assembly was a traditional activity of the Heavenly Academy. It was also an opportunity for the students to get to know each other. Atop the platform of the plaza stood the 3 sovereign teachers who had participated in the ability test. Guiyu stood at the corner of the high platform, squinting his eyes, searching for Yiqing Luo's position in the crowd. When he saw Yiqing Luo, his old eyes widened and waved excitedly at her. As a master on the high platform, every move of his was watched by countless eyes. This action of Guiyu was naturally noticed by many. They couldn't help but look towards the direction where Guiyu waved. Their line of sight was fixed on Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo, do you feel that? Everyone is looking at you. Lu Xiaoyu had never been in contact with such a big scene. She subconsciously held Yiqing Luo's arm and squeezed closer to her. Yiqing Luo's hand froze. She had never been in such close contact with others. Yiqing Luo was not used to it, but she didn't hate this feeling. It's not like we are shameful. Let them see if they want to see. Lu Xiaoyu was after all thin-skinned. Her eyes drooped down and her cheeks were stained with crimson. Yiqing Luo sighed and gently patted Lu Xiaoyu's hand. Raising her bewitching eyes, her expression sunk slightly. Her gaze transformed into a cold and sharp glint that pierced towards everyone who was looking over. The powerful aura made the freshmen shrink their necks. Cough, cough, cough. The headmaster is here. The headmaster is here. Freshmen, please be quiet. The master on the stage eased the atmosphere. As soon as the voice fell, a white figure descended from the sky and landed steadily in the middle of the high platform. That was an old man. A set of white robe covered him tightly, revealing only a pair of sharp and astute eyes and white hair scattered on his shoulders. The body under the white robe seemed to have no bones. The white robe was hanging loosely in the air. The old man was holding an agate-colored walking stick in his hand. The agate jade on the top of the walking stick was flickering with electric brilliance, symbolizing his status, the heavenly headmaster. The moment he appeared, all the freshmen in the field immediately shifted their eyes to the high platform. Each of them revealed a look of fear, trembling as they stood straight and held their breath. This was authority. It was a majesty that made one's body react instinctively. The entire freshman area was silent, so quiet that even their own breathing could be heard clearly. Even the old students and the headmasters who were standing outside of the meeting were in awe. The heavenly dean coughed lightly. His voice was old and full of majesty. "I am the dean of this academy. Welcome to the heavenly academy." His voice paused, and he raised the walking stick in his hand. A square-shaped stone slab appeared above his head. "Everyone, take out your wooden tablet and stamp it on the protruding part of the stone slab." A teacher stepped forward and took the stone slab. Then, he carried the stone slab and walked down the high platform. Starting from the first freshman, each of them took out the wooden token they received when they registered and imprinted it on the stone slab. Every time a wooden tablet was imprinted, the slate would emit a dazzling light. The students took turns to imprint the wooden token, and the heavenly dean continued on the high platform. "I don't care what your identity is outside the school or what class you are assigned to. Once you enter the heavenly academy, you have to listen to the arrangements of the heavenly academy." Chapter 163. The freshman responded almost subconsciously, "Yes." The headmaster nodded in satisfaction and continued to speak. It was some general principles that everyone understood. After the long-winded speech, the other masters came over to continue. Teacher Win's representative went up on stage and gave a long series of lectures on how to be a person. On the other hand, Wu Fuzi's speech was crude and easy to understand, but it was also filled with an awe-inspiring boldness. The entire event lasted for about 4 hours. The headmaster then announced the successful end of the event. Just like when he came, he leaped and his white robe flitted across the night sky and disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. His speed was so fast that countless new students exclaimed in admiration, and they were filled with reverence for Dean Xian. In the crowd, Yi-Ching Luo sneered disdainfully. "The headmaster is so awesome. Qing Luo, don't you think so?" Hearing Yi-Ching Luo's sneer, Lu Xiaoyu retracted her gaze from the direction where the headmaster disappeared. Yi-Ching Luo lightly hooked her lips and did not answer. She did not have the slightest bit of respect for this so-called heavenly dean. On the contrary, she felt that this headmaster was too good at pretending. Which of the headmasters of the academy was not highly respected and had a scholarly air about them? And when the headmaster appeared, he didn't take the easy way out and chose to descend from the sky, as if he was afraid that others didn't know his profound grade. And when he left, he even showed his hand. No matter how one looked at him, he didn't look like a respectable senior. After the crowd sent off the headmaster, the 3 masters stood on the high platform and said the closing remarks. Accompanied by the applause, the masters repeated, "All freshmen, don't forget to report to the square tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for training and class allocation." In the end, the 4 masters removed the enchantment and dispersed. Yi-Ching Luo held Lu Xiaoyu and stood still. After a while, Yi Fengyu trotted over with the luggage. The moment he saw Yi-Ching Luo, a big smile appeared on his handsome face. "Sister, I've already moved into the dormitory and got along well with my roommates. Yiqing Luo took the luggage and touched Yi Fengyu's head. Don't trust others too easily. No one will treat you unconditionally for no reason. Be careful. Hearing this, Yi Fengyu was slightly startled, and the smile on his face froze. After a long while, he nodded seriously. Thank you for reminding me, big sister. I understand. While the siblings were still talking, some of the freshmen who had been standing there for 4 hours felt their legs go numb. Without any strength, they returned to their dormitories to rest. The bustling square gradually quieted down. Qing Luo, bad news. Lu Xiaoyu suddenly tugged at Yiqing Luo's sleeve. Up ahead, Shangguan Liuli was pulling a man dressed in the academy's uniform over. Behind the man were 5 or 6 other men. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as she saw the badge on the man's chest, emitting a golden Gao word. High profound class students. Shangguan Liuli's third brother? Yiqing Luo's brows rose, but there was no expression on her face. Sister, what's going on? Yi Fengyu felt that the atmosphere was strange. That group of people were obviously here for Yiqing Luo. It was only the first day of school, and there were already people who wanted to deal with his sister. Yiqing Luo shook her head lightly and pulled Yi Fengyu and Lu Xiaoyu behind her. Coincidentally, Shangguan Liuli and the group of men had already arrived in front of Yiqing Luo. The appearance of the students from the high-level class immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding students. On one side were the senior students dressed in the academy's uniform, and on the other side were the freshmen dressed in ordinary clothes. From the looks of it, it was obvious that there were freshmen who were not afraid of death and went against the students from the high-level class. Chapter 164. Are you the roommate who shares a room with Lu Li? The third young master of the Shangguan family, Shangguan Fong, he stared at Yiqing Luo and asked with a smile. Although he was in the academy, Shangguan Fong, he had heard of Yiqing Luo's deeds. Originally, he thought the rumors were too exaggerated. But after seeing her today, he believed the rumors. Whether we are roommates or not, it's not certain yet. Yiqing Luo replied with a smile. Shangguan Fong, he frowned. He was an old student of the academy and a student of the high profound class. No matter how capable Yiqing Luo was, she should at least give him some face. But Yiqing Luo was so arrogant. No wonder his arrogant sister was so angry that she cried and made a fuss. You want to drive me out of the dormitory? Shangguan Lu Li's face turned red with anger. She relied on her brother's support and was not afraid of Yiqing Luo. She walked out from behind Shangguan Fong, and pointed at Yiqing Luo. The Heavenly Academy has no regulations on changing dormitory. Don't even think of driving me out. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Did I say I will drive you out of the dormitory? Shangguan Liuli was speechless. She was embarrassed and angry at the same time. She stomped her feet and tugged at Fong Yi's sleeve. Seventh Miss Yi, since you did not want to drive Lu Li out, why did you speak ill of her in the dormitory and even broke her hand? Shangguan Fong Yi's face sunk slightly. He admitted that a woman like Yiqing Luo was enough to attract his attention. But this did not mean that the dignity of the Shangguan family was allowed to be trampled on by Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's attitude was obviously not putting the Shangguan family in her eyes. He purposely raised his voice so that the people around him could hear his words, which were very reasonable. This was also to explain to the people around that he was not bullying the freshmen, but to seek justice for his sister. Yiqing Luo chuckled, crossed her arms, and looked at him with a faint smile. Then why don't you ask your precious sister? There are 4 people in the dormitory. Why did I specifically bully her? The surrounding people let out a hiss. They all agreed with Yiqing Luo's words. Many of the people around were young masters and young ladies of influential families. Naturally, they had heard of Shangguan Liuli's arrogance. If it wasn't for the provocation, who would be so bored as to quarrel with their roommates on the first day of school? One had to know that in the Heavenly Academy, once the dormitory was set, there would not be any changes until graduation. No matter what, you're the one who seriously injured Liuli. You should apologize. Shangwan Fangyi's face turned ashen when he heard the agreement from the surrounding students. He took a step back. Those 6 old students behind them surrounded Yiqing, Luo, and the others. Out of these 6 men, 4 were from the intermediate class. 1 was from the low class, and the last one hid his class. He must be a student from the low profound class. This action caused an uproar among the crowd. Are they going to start fighting at the slightest disagreement? One by one, they walked further away, afraid that they would be implicated in this disaster. Yi Fengyu's face darkened as he pulled Yiqing Luo's hand and stood in front of her. Sister, they are simply taking advantage of their power to bully others. They want you to apologize and protect the Shangwan family's reputation. Lu Xiaoyu shrunk behind Yiqing Luo. Her big, bright eyes flashed as she stared at the 6 people surrounding her. Qing Luo, do you want to fight? Didn't you read the rules of the Heavenly Academy properly? Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smile as she stared at Shangwan Fangyi and said word by word, students who engage in private fights in the school will be given a major demerit. Chapter 165. There was a hint of surprise in Shangwan Fangyi's eyes. Yiqing Luo was just a freshman. How would she know the rules of the Heavenly Academy? Speaking of taking advantage of one's power to bully others, Yiqing Luo gave a low laugh and put her arm over his shoulder. In the Heavenly Academy, who can compete with your power? Yi Fengyu was at a loss, not understanding the meaning of his sister's words. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smile as her peripheral vision caught a glimpse of a white figure flashing past the crowd. She raised her voice and said, according to 3rd Young Master Shangwan, if 5th Miss Shangwan attacks me, I have to stand still and let her severely injure me. Yiqing Luo's voice paused as she sneered coldly. I really can't agree with the Shangwan family's robber logic. When the crowd heard this, they couldn't help but roar with laughter. In front of everyone, Shangwan Fangyi was humiliated like this. His face turned red and green, and he clenched his fists so tightly that his veins were bulging. The Academy's rules did indeed state that private fights were not allowed within the Academy. The 6 men were only putting on an act. None of them dared to make a move. They had really belittled Yiqing Luo. With just a few words, she had actually dragged the Shangwan clan into this. If the people around them were laughing at him or Shangwan Liuli, it would be fine. Unfortunately, under Yiqing Luo's lead, all of them were looking at the Shangwan family as a joke. Shangwan Fangyi could not take this lying down. 3rd brother, look at her. She doesn't even put our Shangwan family in her eyes. Shangwan Liuli pouted and shook Shangwan Fangyi's arm. Ever since she was young, she had always been a flower in a greenhouse. Her family had always held her in the palm of their hands and cared for her as she grew up. He had never suffered any grievances. Even if she caused trouble outside, as long as she mentioned the Shangwan clan, no one would dare to say anything bad about her. This was the first time in Shangwan Liuli's life that she had met someone who wasn't afraid of her Shangwan family. Shut up. Shangwan Fangyi scolded her sternly. This spoiled, willful, big-breasted, brainless sister of his really gave him a headache. At this moment, Shangwan Liuli still had to use the name of the Shangwan clan. He was not afraid of a godlike opponent, but he was afraid of a pig-like teammate. Shangwan Liuli was definitely a pig-like teammate. No matter how much Shangwan Fangyi doted on his sister, for a man, the face of the family was naturally more important than his sister. He raised his hand and slapped Shangwan Liuli's face. Shangwan Liuli was so stunned that she even forgot to cry. She covered half of her face in a daze and looked at Shangwan Fangyi in disbelief. After a long while, tears the size of beans gushed out of her eyes. She pointed at Shangwan Fangyi, her whole body trembling. You hit me. 3rd brother, I will tell father. After saying that, she covered her face and ran away, crying bitterly. After witnessing the dog-eat-dog drama, Yiqing Luo raised her brows as her lips curled into a mocking smile. Move aside. His gaze slowly swept across the 6 men surrounding him. A chill ran down his spine, from the soles of his feet to to his head. That gaze seemed to be able to take their lives at any moment. When they heard Yi Qing Luo's cold and enchanting voice, their legs subconsciously opened up a path. Yi Qing Luo glanced at Shangguan Fangyi with ridicule as she led Yi Fengyu and Lu Xiaoyu out of their encirclement and walked towards the direction of the dormitory without turning back. "Stop right there." Chapter 166. I'm being overbearing. Yi Qing Luo snorted coldly. Her charming eyes flashed. "Let the students be the judge. When was I being overbearing?" She changed the topic, her pink lips raised lightly. "Moreover, if it wasn't for the Shangguan fifth miss who insisted on using the Shangguan family to suppress me, why would I mention them?" These words were extremely sarcastic. Who was Yi Qing Luo? The young matriarch of Three Springs sect, the future matriarch. Even though the current Three Springs sect was gradually falling behind in the hands of Yi Tianquan, but no one could shake the position of one of the four major sects in the Nirvana realm. A mere cultivator's family was nothing in Yi Qing Luo's eyes. Shangguan Liuli was simply a clown in front of Yi Qing Luo. The onlookers looked at Shangguan Fangyi with even more ridicule. Shangguan Fangyi's face turned ashen and gloomy. In the Heavenly Academy, everything starts from zero. The affairs of us students have nothing to do with the family. I hope 7th Miss can distinguish this clearly. You'd better say this to the Shangguan 5th Mississippi. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes. She was puzzled. These people with eyes on the top of their heads, did they not understand human language? That's right, in the Heavenly Academy, all students are equal. Suddenly, a vigorous and powerful voice came from the crowd. An old man, with his hands behind his back, walked over in a sloppy manner. A head of white hair, messily tied into a ball, a white master's robe hanging loosely on his body, askew. He looked like a crazy old man. But in the academy, I have the backing of the Yi siblings. I am the force behind them. Who else could this crazy but arrogant old man be other than Old Man Guiyu? "Master," Yi Fengyu called out joyfully upon seeing Old Man Guiyu. It was obvious that Old Man Guiyu had met him and accepted him as his disciple after Yi Fengyu entered the academy. Yi Qing Luo's brows softened. The smile on the corner of her mouth also added some gentleness. It seemed that she need not worry about Yi Fengyu in the future. With Old Man Guiyu's care, Yi Fengyu would definitely be successful in the Heavenly Academy. Based on Old Man Guiyu's character, Yi Qing Luo was not afraid that Yi Fengyu would be bullied by others. Even without her, Old Man Guiyu would strike first. "Master Guiyu," Yi Qing Luo greeted him. Hearing the way Yi Qing Luo addressed him, Old Man Guiyu's face lit up with joy as he strode over. "Luo lass, leave this to me. Bring you back to the dormitory first." "Master Guiyu." Shangguan Fangyi looked at Guiyu with an ugly expression. As the young master of the Shangguan family, and having stayed in the Heavenly Academy for several years, he was naturally aware of Old Man Guiyu's identity. If Old Man Guiyu intervened in this matter, he would have to swallow this matter into his stomach. "My disciple, the Luo girl that I have my eyes on, you dare to stop me? High profound class, students can do whatever they want in the academy?" Old Man Guiyu turned to Shangguan Fangyi, and his face turned cold. Shangguan Fangyi suppressed his anger, lowered his head, and replied respectfully, "Student doesn't dare. Student just want to help my sister." Old Man Guiyu squinted his eyes and pointed at Shangguan Fangyi arrogantly, not leaving any face for him. "The person that I have my eyes on, I know very well what kind of character she has. You have to see if you have the capital to slander my person in front of me." These words caused Shangguan Fangyi to be unable to spit out a single word. Chapter 167. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up into a smile as she put the luggage on Yi Fengyu's shoulder. "Let's go. Help me tidy up the room." But master," Yi Fengyu held the luggage and glanced at the direction of Old Man Guiyu. Master was helping them out of trouble. If they just left like that, wouldn't it be too heartless? Fool. Yi Qing Luo knocked on Yi Feng Yu's head. What have you been learning in the Yi family for the past 10 years? Why are you so stupid? Yi Feng Yu looked at his sister blankly, not understanding the meaning of her words. Master Yu, I'll leave this to you. We have training tomorrow morning. We'll go back to the dormitory first. Yi Qing Luo shouted at Old Man Yu's back. Old Man Yu waved his hand and motioned for them to leave. Yi Qing Luo pulled Yi Feng Yu and Lu Xiaoyu and turned to leave. The surrounding crowd spontaneously made way for them. After a while, the three of them arrived at the female dormitory area. Yi Feng Yu was blocked by the guards outside the area. Yi Qing Luo pulled over the luggage on his shoulder and patted his head. You just go back to the dormitory. Don't bother your master. Master, Yi Feng Yu looked troubled. Shengwan Feng didn't speak for a long time. Obviously, he doesn't want to have any conflict with us, but for the sake of the family's reputation, he needs a way out. It's the first day of school. We don't need to make things too big. Since Master Yu is here, this way out is under his feet. If we were still here, he would naturally be embarrassed and would continue to pester us. Yi Qing Luo sighed softly and explained patiently. The siblings had lost their mother since they were young. Yi Tian Kuang never cared about them. Although Yi Feng Yu studied in an ordinary school, the things taught by those masters were all dead logic. No one had taught him how to conduct himself in the world. Yi Feng Yu nodded in realization. So, the power that sister mentioned is referring to Master's power. Master Yu's status in the school is very high. If you follow him, you will definitely not suffer. If he's willing to teach you, I'm sure you'll have a qualitative leap in your cultivation before long. Yi Qing Luo's hand slid from her brother's head to his ear and pinched it fiercely. As a man, if you want to protect sister, then learn well from teacher Yu. Don't always think that sister will help you when you run into trouble. Everything depends on yourself, understand? Yi Feng Yu covered his ears in pain and repeatedly responded. Go back and have a good rest. Don't embarrass me in tomorrow's training. Yi Qing Luo released his ear. Seeing that his ears had turned red, she rubbed them, her heart aching for him. The siblings exchanged a few more words of concern before sending Yi Feng Yu off. After returning to the dormitory, the entire dormitory was silent. Mo Yu's room was still quiet. It seemed like he didn't see Mo Yu at the freshman competition either. Shangguan Liuli wasn't in the dorm either. Qing Luo, Shangguan Liuli is famous for being pampered and unruly. Even if we temporarily reconcile tonight, I'm afraid third young master Shangguan will not let you off easily. Lu Xiaoyu followed closely behind Yi Qing Luo into her room, her eyes filled with worry. It's all right, don't worry. Yi Qing Luo placed her luggage on the bed and began to pack. In the luggage were some of Yi Qing Luo's daily necessities and 2 clean and thin bedding. Chapter 168. With Shangguan Fengyi's status and talent, it was destined that he would not be a nobody in the Heavenly Academy. What's more, to be able to grow up in the Shangguan family and even successfully enter the Heavenly Academy, one would naturally have a lot of schemes. Shangguan Fengyi had been teaching in the Heavenly Academy for at least 5 years. In the academy, he had naturally formed a wave of forces that belonged to him. If he were to secretly take action on Yi Qing Luo, there was no way to defend against it. Lu Xiaoyu's face was filled with worry, but when she saw Yi Qing Luo's expressionless face, calmly laying out the bed sheets, her heart became more anxious. Qing Luo, if you want to make a move on me secretly, there's no use worrying about it. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she smiled indifferently. Go to sleep. Tomorrow morning we have to go to the public square for training. Lu Xiaoyu still wanted to say something, but Yi Qing Luo continued. If you don't take a good rest, the assessment's overall score will be dragged down during training. If you're allocated to the low profound class, it will be very troublesome if you want to be promoted. Well, I won't. In short, it's better to be safe than sorry. If there's anything you need help with, feel free to look for me. I'm not afraid of offending them. Lu Xiaoyu patted Yi Qing Luo's shoulder with a firm gaze. Yiqing Luo's smile gradually deepened. It felt great to be able to make good friends on the first day of school. Sending Lu Xiaoyu back to her room with her eyes, Yiqing Luo closed the door and fell onto the bed. Closing his eyes, he prepared to extract his divine sense and enter the azure dew bracelet to cultivate his profound energy. Suddenly, she remembered something and sat up abruptly. Chi-Chi? No wonder he felt like something was missing. Yiqing Luo's consciousness probed into the beast pet space, but she didn't find Chi-Chi. Before the freshman competition, Chi-Chi was resting with her in the room. When she bumped into Lu Xiaoyu, Chi-Chi was still on her shoulder. She immediately got off the bed and called out Chi-Chi's name in her heart, but there was no response at all. Damn it! Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly as her brows creased tightly. His heart was filled with guilt towards Chi-Chi. She did not even know when Chi-Chi had left her shoulder. She could not even find Chi-Chi now. Ever since she contracted Mu Chi-Chi, she did not care much about Mu Chi-Chi. Yiqing Luo gathered her long skirt and pushed open the tightly shut window, trying to sneak around the academy to find out where Chi-Chi was. There were many experts in the Heavenly Academy, and she was worried that Chi-Chi would be mistaken as an ordinary pet beast by other students or teachers and captured. As soon as she opened the window, a gust of cold wind blew into her face, causing her black hair to scatter. Yiqing Luo turned her head and squinted her eyes as her hair fell on her eyelashes. Suddenly, her body stiffened. Her slender fingers brushed aside her hair, which had been messed up by the wind, and she stared at the pitch-black night sky. The wind brought a familiar scent of sandalwood. As it seeped into her nose, her restless heart inexplicably calmed down. It's him, Dmo Xian arrived. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, a strong and powerful arm wrapped around his waist. Her back was pressed against a hot, broad chest. The man's chin rested on her shoulder. His mellow and mesmerizing voice sounded beside her ear. Ah Luo, do you want to climb the window? His fresh and elegant sandalwood scent enveloped her completely. The man's warmth also covered her whole body, and she did not resist such an intimate action. There was no rejection at all. This man was really amazing. Chapter 169. What are you doing here? Yiqing Luo's fingers curled into a wisp of his black hair, twining around her fingers. Dmo Xian's thin lips hooked up slightly, whispering, I missed you, so I came to see you. Sneaking into the Heavenly Academy in the middle of the night and touching the female dormitory. If the guard saw you, you will be regarded as a rapist. Yiqing Luo tugged at his long hair, raised her head, and looked at him playfully. But when she raised her head, she was met with a pair of peach blossom eyes. When they looked at each other, there seemed to be an electric current. Her body and mind suddenly went numb. Her heart was beating wildly. Dmo Xian's brows were full of laziness. His 5 fingers lightly lifted her chin. Plucking is a flower. I wonder if Luo is willing to let me pluck you? Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. These words, why did it sound like he was expressing his feelings to her? Don't speak. It means you agree. Dmo Xian's lips hooked up. The hand on her chin suddenly buckled. Her body, along with the strength of the man's fingertips, moved closer to the man. Immediately, that peerless face enlarged in her pupils. Warm lips pasted on her lips. Originally, it was just a simple touch. Yiqing Luo reacted and subconsciously stepped back. But the man's arm increased the strength. The big palm fell on the back of her head, forcefully deepening the kiss. He invaded her territory, occupying all her sweetness. Yiqing Luo's breathing was rapid. Her mind was blank. The strength of her body seemed to be drained by Dmo Xian. Her whole body was numb. She had no consciousness to resist. Being hugged by him, being touched by him, she was used to it. It was nothing. But why was it that even kisses she was used to it? She shouldn't be towards Dmo Xian. This thought made Yiqing Luo quiver. The whole person immediately regained her senses. Woo, woo. Yi-Ching Luo's charming eyes revealed anger, raised her fist, struggling to pound on Dmo Xian's chest. But Dmo Xian seemed to deliberately go against her. The more she struggled, the fiercer he kissed, as if he wanted to kiss away all her reason and swallow her into his stomach. It was until the man's jet-black eyes turned deep black before he released Yi-Ching Luo's lips. Facing Yi-Ching Luo's angry and embarrassed expression, Dmo Xian was like a cat that had stolen a fish, his lips curled into a satisfied smile. "Looks like I picked the right flower." Dmo Xian gave a low laugh as his fingers caressed his lips, seemingly wanting to continue. The taste is not bad. His actions, his words, made Yi-Ching Luo feel even more ashamed and indignant. She raised her arm and was about to slap him. Her speed was fast, but Dmo Xian's speed was even faster. Just as he made his move, he felt a grip on his wrist. The man's large palm held her tightly, and then pulled her into his embrace. Yi-Ching Luo's face bumped into Dmo Xian's chest. The fresh and elegant smell of sandalwood was getting thicker, as though it was going to make Yi-Ching Luo faint. "Emperor, Ink, Mystic." Just as Yi-Ching Luo was about to lash out at Dmo Xian, he immediately changed the topic. "Ah Luo, I'm here to return your things." "You." Yi-Ching Luo gritted her teeth in anger. Damn it, this man was definitely her nemesis, wasn't he? Once she met him, she would definitely be at a disadvantage. He didn't play the cards according to common sense. Sure enough, it was a world where the bigger fist was the hard truth. She couldn't beat Dmo Xian in a fight, couldn't scold Dmo Xian. Even her sarcastic remarks could be ignored by Dmo Xian. Chapter 170. Ow, ow, the shrill cry of a pet beast came from behind him. This sound made Yi-Ching Luo's heart tremble. She didn't have the mood to criticize Dmo Xian. Yi-Ching Luo used both her hands and feet to push Dmo Xian away. The moment she turned around, she saw a white fluffy ball standing behind her. Snow-white fur without any impurities. A pair of dark eyes were glowing with a watery luster, as if it was acting coquettishly. Wasn't it the missing Chi-Chi? Yi-Ching Luo opened her arms to it. Her eyes were filled with joy. Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi's tiger eyes were sparkling. Its little legs kicked and scuttled into Yi-Ching Luo's arms. Yi-Ching Luo picked it up and rubbed her little face on its furry head as her lips curled into an elegant arc. Dmo Xian leaned on one side, his hands crossed over his chest. The cold moonlight spilled in from the window, plated that handsome face with a layer of dazzling silver edge. Dmo Xian's pair of sparkling crystal peach blossom eyes squinted slightly, outlining a long and narrow demonic arc. His thin lips curled up slightly, his eyes locked deeply on Yi-Ching Luo. He smiled at Chi-Chi, smiling till his eyes were curved. That face that usually looked cold and arrogant and glamorous, was actually exceptionally gentle. His eyes couldn't help but become gentle. A pair of warm jade eyes gazed at Yi-Ching Luo. Outside the window, Wind, who was hiding in the dark, almost fell down from the branch when he saw this scene. Was this still the cold and ruthless overlord his heart? Dmo Xian smiled faintly. He was looking at Yi-Ching Luo tenderly when he saw Yi-Ching Luo's pink lips imprinted on Chi-Chi's forehead. His brows suddenly trembled. Dmo Xian strode forward, stretched out his hand, and pulled Chi-Chi out from Yi-Ching Luo's arms. Holding its neck, his expression was ugly. "Are you male or female?" Yi-Ching Luo was just about to scold him for being crazy again. When she heard Dmo Xian's question, the corners of her mouth twitched. "Damn, what does male or female have to do with you?" Yi-Ching Luo stretched out her hand to snatch. Dmo Xian turned around, and she pounced on empty air. The man lifted Chi-Chi and locked eyes with it. At this moment, that jet-black peach blossom eyes, or was there any glimmer when he looked at Yi-Ching Luo earlier? Chi-Chi's hair stood up and under Dmo Xian's threatening glare, it tucked its tail between its legs and whimpered twice. Speak. Chi-Chi wagged her tail. Oh, it was one of the four sacred beasts, the white tiger. Of course it was a male tiger. Male? Dmo Xian's eyes narrowed as an eerie chill arose. Rescind the contract. Dmo Xian, you're sick. Yiqing Luo snappily hooked onto Dmo Xian's waist and snatched Chi-Chi back with one hand. Whether my companion is male or female has nothing to do with you. After Chi-Chi was snatched in her hands, Yiqing Luo was about to let go of Dmo Xian when the man suddenly tightened his arms and pulled her into his embrace. Luo threw himself at you, and you still want to run? Dmo Xian raised his brows slightly, his slender fingers easily hooked onto Chi-Chi from Yiqing Luo's hand. With a casual toss, Chi-Chi tumbled a few rounds in the air and fell onto the bed. The small body immediately burrowed into the mattress, only revealing a small tail. A sacred beast was actually frightened by Dmo Xian and became so obedient. Dmo Xian was really deserving of the Nirvana legend. Yiqing Luo's mouth couldn't help twitching. Are you done? Chapter 171. Yiqing Luo slapped the back of his hand fiercely. Why did you bring my Chi-Chi out? Dmo Xian didn't evade and let Yiqing Luo slap him. That slap was very forceful. Even Chi-Chi, who was curled up in the quilt, peeked out its little head and looked at them with twinkling eyes. However, the man's expression didn't change. Instead, he bent down and his thin lips were almost on Yiqing Luo's neck. His hot breath sprayed on her skin bit by bit. I picked it up casually. It has your scent on it. Picked up? Was her Chi-Chi so easy to pick up? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes and looked at Chi-Chi. You were really picked up by him? Chi-Chi blinked and nodded its head. Luo doesn't believe me. Dmo Xian turned her face and made her look at him. The man's face was full of resentment as he cupped Yiqing Luo's face with both hands. Luo, do you think that I have ulterior motives towards this male tiger? Yiqing Luo's eyes twitched. Was this really the legendary overlord? Moreover, he was too obsessed with Chi-Chi's gender. You speak as if your nine-tailed fox is not a female. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes and pulled away the man's hand that was caressing her face. Nope. Then that's it. Your fox is a female. Yiqing Luo's words stopped abruptly as her eyes widened. What? What the hell? Such a flirtatious nine-tailed fox. Was it not a female? In her mind, a picture suddenly came up. A seductive man dressed in a white velvet robe with coquettish eyes winking at Dmo. Simply too beautiful. So beautiful that Yiqing Luo couldn't bear to think about it anymore. Your taste is quite heavy. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she laughed dryly. All right, since you have sent Chi-Chi back, go do whatever you need to do. I need a rest. After Dmo Xian's teasing, Yiqing Luo believed his words. After all, Chi-Chi would not lie to her. She yawned and walked towards the bed. Just as he took a step forward, his waist suddenly tightened, and his body suddenly became light. When she came back to her senses, she was already half in the man's arms and lying on the bed. The man's black hair spilled over the bed like clouds and smoke. His purple robe was like a blossoming mandala, adding a touch of demonic charm to his appearance. He turned sideways, with one hand under Yiqing Luo's head and the other around her waist. Yiqing Luo's entire face was buried in his chest. His sandalwood scent filled his nostrils. You go to sleep. Dmo Xian's thin lips curled into a slight arc as he shut his eyes tightly. I'm sleepy too. Go to sleep if you're tired. What are you trying to do by snatching my bed? Yiqing Luo roared in her heart. Her hands and feet struggled, trying to push the man away. But Dmo Xian's body was like a huge lock, trapping her, and she was unable to move at all. His arms moved up slightly and gently covered the back of her head. His magnetic, low, husky voice was like a lullaby in her ears. Be good. Don't make a fuss. Go to sleep. His big palm, through the black hair, exuded a scorching heat. It was warm and made her feel at ease. This was a feeling that Yi-Ching Luo had never felt since her past life. While she was in a daze, the shallow, breathing sound in her ears gradually calmed down. Had he fallen asleep? Yi-Ching Luo moved a little and sensed no other changes in Di-Mo Xian's breath. He might really be sleepy. Yi-Ching Luo's body stiffened and no longer moved. Perhaps this embrace was too warm and made her feel at ease. Or perhaps Yi-Ching Luo was also sleepy. After a while, she fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 172. This time, Yi-Ching Luo slept exceptionally sweetly. When she was in the hidden family, Yi-Ching Luo had developed the habit of being vigilant at all times. Even in her sleep, the slightest sound could wake her up. In particular, her strong perception was too sharp. She had never tasted the feeling of sleeping soundly. This time, Yi-Ching Luo actually woke up after the academy's bell rang several times. Until Lu Xiaoyu came in to urge her to get up, she then slowly opened her eyes. Di-Mo Xian was long gone. Her hand touched the side of her body. It was icy cold. He should have left for a period of time. Yi-Ching Luo's eyes were filled with astonishment as she sat on the bed in a daze. She had never slept so comfortably. She didn't even know when Di-Mo Xian left. Slept until she didn't even know when Lu Xiaoyu entered her room. Her slender white palm, inch by inch, moved to her heart, her 5 fingers clutching the collar of her chest tightly. What drug did Di-Mo Xian give her? It actually made her change her habits for many years unknowingly. He was really her nemesis. The academy's bell rang again. This was the last reminder bell for the gathering in the square. Yi-Ching Luo immediately got up, dressed herself up with the fastest speed, changed into a set of light clothes, and gathered with Lu Xiaoyu at the square. This time was neither too early nor too late. The square was also considered quiet. Other than this batch of freshmen, there was a batch of students in the high profound class area and a few students in the intermediate profound class area undergoing morning training. In front of the freshmen, there were already 2 training instructors dressed in tight martial uniforms, with a big drill word printed on their backs. Their faces were cold, expressionless, and full of anger and majesty. Just by standing there, their imposing manner had already suppressed this group of freshmen. 400 to 500 people lined up under the call of the 2 training instructors. Dear freshmen, we are the instructors in charge of the freshmen's morning training. The 2 instructors called out. The instructor on the left had a cold face. His eyes were cold. My surname is he. Although the instructor on the right also had a majestic aura, the corner of his mouth hooked up with a slight smile, coupled with the contrast of instructor he, it seemed easier to get along. My surname is Chu. Just call me Instructor Chu. Hello, Instructor he, Instructor Chu. The freshmen immediately stood up straight and shouted in unison. When training ends, it will be time for you to be divided into classes. This time's training will also be integrated into the overall results of your assessment. The final result will be the standard for your class placement. Instructor Chu smiled and explained today's training. Each of you has a piece of paper in your hands. After you're divided into classes, you can take it to the Faculty Affairs office to collect your uniform. From tomorrow onwards, you have to wear the academy uniform when you come to the plaza for training. Tomorrow? Do you still have to wake up so early tomorrow? An extremely low voice complained. I'd rather sleep in the dormitory than listen to your nagging. Although his voice was low, it could still be heard clearly in such a silent situation. All the students turned their gazes towards the direction of the grumbling, although these words were what they were thinking. But roasting in front of the instructor, did he not want to stay in the academy anymore? Everyone wanted to see who this incredibly stupid person was. Students in the 5th row of the 2nd row, step out. Instructor He's voice was cold as he shouted. But after a long time, no one stepped out. On the contrary, the students who were called out were still looking left and right, as if trying to find out who the instructor was calling. She only reacted when the person beside her pushed her. Me? You, why do you have to ask me to step out? She suddenly blushed and bit her red lips. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.